It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
The Kavanaugh probe, new trade deal. I'm Ann Cates. The White House says no restrictions have been placed on the FBI as it investigates sexual assault allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Correspondent Caitlin Collins on the president's reaction to Kavanaugh's drinking habits.
Asked if he'll pull Kavanaugh's nomination if it's proven he lied, Trump said,
I was surprised at how vocal he was about the fact that he likes beer. And he's had a little bit of difficulty. I mean, he talked about things that happened when he drank.
Trump adding he was impressed by Kavanaugh's candor, but not answering the question.
The U.S. has reached a trade pact with Canada and Mexico. Correspondent Natasha Chen.
The deal requires 40 to 45% of auto content be made by workers earning at least $16 an hour and requires more of a vehicle's parts to be made in North America in order for the car to be free from tariffs. Automaker Ford says it's very encouraged by this. Quote, the benefits of scale and global reach will help to drive volume and support manufacturing jobs.
A war hero has been given the Medal of Honor.
Army medic Ronald Schurer was awarded the nation's highest honor for conspicuous gallantry in Afghanistan, where in 2008 he braved enemy machine gun and rocket-propelled grenade fire to treat wounded members of his team who were pinned down. President Trump praised Schurer's bravery.
For more than 6 hours, Ron bravely faced down the enemy.
Schurer left the military in 2009 and is now a member of the Secret Service counter-assault team. Jerry Bodlander at the White House.
Las Vegas is phasing out the Vegas Strong slogan that became a rallying cry after the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history that left 58 people dead. A year later, the phrase is being replaced with Vegas Stronger. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 193 points. I'm Ann Cates.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. You are tuned into your protection from deception right here at truthfrequencyradio.com. And check your blind spot as you merge into the #1 show on TFR on Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. Pacific, 9 to midnight Eastern. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and it starts now. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism, and with me tonight is my brother from an older mother, the host of the very popular Flat Earth podcast. He is deep inside the rabbit hole, David Weiss. David, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Jeran, thanks for having me, man.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I've been gone for about 2 weeks, maybe even 3. I don't even remember. So it is good to be back. I did a live stream last night. I don't know if you caught it.
I did, late, but caught the replay. Excellent, as always.
You know what they say, better late than never, right?
Yes.
So what did you think, if people don't know what we're talking about? Obviously, you know the story of the FOIA request and all the nonsense that, pursued after that. What do we got? 6 months or 7 months of just waiting for, spacewalk from 2006. And I finally got it. And what do you think of the footage? Proof, David?
It was It was. I think that you and I could make a better video in one evening that would look more real.
It might take us 2 nights.
It might, possibly.
Yeah, I don't think we could do it in a night, but in 2 nights, I think that we could do it. So yeah, pretty disappointed with that whole process. And, I don't know. I just said it last night. I think it's time just to give up on NASA. What a joke. I mean, I don't even know why we pay them any attention. Obviously, they are, the orchestrators of the mass deception. But they are really, I don't know, problematic in my mind.
I was kind of figuring at this point you had them in a corner and they were just going to go, all right, you got me. And they're going to give you the footage. You were going to display it. And that was going to be the end of NASA.
That's what you expected?
I was at one point, I was like, we're going to get them. We got them. They're in a corner. They got to give it up.
Yeah, right. Nope. They will weasel out of anything. And obviously that's, been clear in this case. And what ended up costing $1,400 and taking just a whole bunch of time and nonsense and having to, drive to certified packages sent and then have to deal with emails back and forth. They really make it impossible to want to ever do that again. Like there's nobody in their right mind that says, okay, well, now let me ask for this particular spacewalk. They've made it so it's impossible for anyone to want to look into what they're doing.
You said something about other people writing their experiences with the FOIA and NASA having the same type of experience. Did I remember that?
Yeah, no, there's tons of stuff. Just if you look up, FOIA, NASA, you get nothing but a bunch of people complaining about the process and that they never get what they ask for, or NASA dodges the questions or the requests. Crazy.
But they're a public agency. They have to answer properly.
Yeah, you'd like to think that. Isn't it crazy that that's the way that it all works at FOIA? People talk about it like it's the freedom of information, but really, David, if you had some sort of underground operation, I'm not saying that you do, but if you had one of those going on at your home and, somebody came to say, I need to see some paperwork from you. And you were able to say, okay, well, give me, $1,400. And then they paid you. And then you take 6 months and deliver some paperwork. I'm pretty sure you could get away with whatever you wanted to do.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I can't think of anything that you wouldn't get away with if you had this kind of buffer zone where you could say for 6 months or 8 months, put it off. So in this case, they certainly didn't provide any kind of evidence. But I did want to point out that those things are available because they were paid for with a GoFundMe. So if you want to get, and there's 2 different files, there's 2 different groups of files actually on archive.org. One is at tinyurl.com/NASA FOIA 14. That's the actual spacewalk that I requested, where I only could find about a minute or 2 minute portion where they're hitting a golf ball. But they finally provided the other footage, so-called, but it's missing headcam footage. There's no audio. So I didn't get an email today. I noticed that. So already we're back to delays. And yeah, that's another article I pointed out yesterday, that there's delays anytime you try and get a hold of NASA for whatever it is, interviews. Sounds suspicious to me, Dave.
Have you tried taking some of that footage and adjusting the levels, cranking them up or down to see if you can see anything in the background yet?
Not yet. No.
All right. Maybe somebody that has access to it can do it.
Yeah, and I can put it in my editor and do quite a bit with it, but I was just watching it, trying to at least watch it at a faster speed. I was watching it at 10 times speed, just trying to see if I could find anything. What did you think about the glitching out of the Earth portion?
I had a problem with that. I can argue that point. If I was filming something moving in the background with something static in the foreground, and I had a glitch in the camera and everything froze or jittered for a second, the thing in the foreground wouldn't move and the background would glitch. I don't like your argument there. Oh, that's it. I'm off the show.
And a short-lived appearance by Dave Weiss. No, I'll invite you to stay. No, I like that about you. If people don't know, Dave and I talk on the side quite a bit, which usually is one of us trying to debunk the other with one of their nonsenses. The one I don't go after anymore is the stars or ethereal beings. I've given that one away to David. You can have that one.
Etheric beings.
Oh, sorry, etheric. Whatever. When I do admit, if nobody listens to the Flat Earth podcast, you're missing out. Absolutely great show, but I do turn the volume down a little bit or put you on really fast talk on my little app. But tell people about the podcast and where they can find that if they don't know.
We're on iTunes and SoundCloud and basically any podcast platform. I think we're on all of them. The easiest is SoundCloud and iTunes, or if you have a smartphone. A lot of people don't realize how a podcast works. You have on the iPhone, there's a default app called Podcast Player. You just open it up, search for the Flat Earth Podcast, subscribe, and it automatically downloads everything. It notifies you when there's a new episode, and it's a fun show. All things Flat Earth all the time.
And I was one of those people that didn't know about it, and Dave had to tell me which app to download, and I got the app, and then finally it started alerting me, and then I learned that I can play you a little bit faster, and you sound really intelligent.
Right. double speed. We sound very, very smart.
A little too smart at double speed.
Yeah. But it's so much better. We figured out that there's tons of stuff on YouTube, but people are traveling on trains, in their cars, walking, and they want audio. So there really wasn't much out there that was audio only. So we came up with the podcast idea. Curious Jay and I. Curious Jay is doing some contracting work right now. So Matt Long from flatworth.com is the co-host for this season at least. And we're just going from there. We try to get him out as fast as we can, but sometimes there's several weeks in between.
Have you met Matt yet?
Oh, yeah. We met him at the conference. That's where at the conference last year in Raleigh.
Okay. I forgot that. I was thinking because you weren't in Canada.
Oh, did you not meet Matt last year? You met him this year in Canada?
Well, I met him this year in Canada.
Yeah, there was a lot of people, so it was easy to miss some people for sure.
Yeah, but no, I enjoyed him a lot in his presentation. What did you think of the Canada conference?
It was great. I mean, anything that's putting out new information, anything that's getting into the public light, anything that's reaching people that don't already know the Earth is flat is ace in my book.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can argue with that. I tried to point out last night that I don't mind if people don't want to believe that. I think that's one of the things that people think so strongly is that we're trying to push our beliefs on the world, and I think that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just get people to look into it because it's something I never had the opportunity to do.
That's the second thing I disagree with you. I mind. If you think the Earth is a spinning ball, I've got a problem with it.
Well, but you did too.
At one point, yes, but
right.
Once somebody really, you're right. It's okay. I'll give you a 6-month window, like it took me before I finally looked into it.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I kind of regret that I didn't get to hear it in the way that most people did. That I think I kind of found it in a grassroots way, and because I would say that I was a flat earther. I would say that at least to my wife in 2014, late 2014. So that was before any YouTube video that I'd seen on it. So that's the crazy thing for me is I never got to hear it like everybody hears it now. So I hear people say it's a psyop and those kind of things. And to me, it couldn't possibly be because I was researching something completely different, ran into that, found it. My wife told me to make videos. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't know how. I don't want my face being shown. And then, sure enough, a few months later, Mark Sargent comes out. So for me, I know you've told your story many times the way you found out. I just feel like I never got to hear it that way. I would have liked to seen my reaction because I've often said, and I don't know if you would say the same thing, but if somebody would have told me this back when I worked as a store manager at a drugstore, I would have been one of those people that said, what difference does it make? Would you have been one of those people?
Yeah. I think we all were when you first you completely ignore it. You laugh at the person. You refuse to hear anything. Then our curiosity gets the best of us, and you keep asking the basic questions, most of them which are in ODD's 21 questions video. Mm-hmm. And the person, if you have an educated person throwing the information at you, you just keep looking for other questions, and then they have an answer for almost everything. And you throw your hands up and you go, well, what difference does it make? And then once you say that, that's when you're caught, because that's when you basically throw your hands up. You usually take a little break at that point, and then you dive in, and that's the end of you.
Yeah, no, and so I don't know if I would have got to that point. I never got to find out. I would have liked to see what would have happened if somebody would have come into my work or store and said, or left a card. If I would have found one of your cards, let's talk a little bit about what you call flat smacking, which I think is hilarious. And I actually texted you today some photographs of some business cards that I leave when I go out around town or wherever, just dropping them wherever. And we can talk a little bit about that. But well, yeah, tell people what you've been doing with that to start.
I printed up cards, different cards that have different flat Earth messages on them, and I print them up by the thousands, and I just leave them everywhere. I stick them in store displays. I drop them in people's purses when they're walking by. I stick them on bulletin boards, on car windows, just wherever. And I have stickers. I was at a music festival over the weekend, just handing them out to people. The stickers, Asbury Park, New Jersey. If you go down there, you're going to see Flat Earth podcast stickers. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's great. And I wore Flat Earth shirts most of the weekend, and I was noticed. One guy, one of the security guards on the way out, came up to us and he's like, "You believe in the flat Earth?" And I said, "I don't believe in it. I know it's flat." And he high-fived me. He's like, "Yeah," and he was psyched.
All right. Did you tell him about me? Did he say?
Oh, yeah, well, I said, "Cool, man." I said, I told him my channel name. I told him your name, and he goes, "I never heard of you."
That doesn't surprise me.
That's actually good though, because if you think about it, there's flat earthers out there that don't even know who we are.
Right.
That means there's more than we imagine.
Oh, there's got to be so many in the closet. I mean,
I don't even think this guy was in the closet. He just is in another circle of flat earthers that just don't know, just aren't.
Well, did you get the speech that I sent you yesterday, which is that Dr. Phil Valentine, and he's I don't know if you'd call him a preacher. He's kind of like the Dr. Farrakhan, those guys. I don't know if you want to call them, personal growth coaches. I don't know what they are, but he speaks to huge congregations of people, and he's now on the flat Earth. So that's the kind of thing where when he's talking about it and people are hearing about it in that community, it's not going to be something that they'd ever even knew about YouTube, let alone,
Wait, he's a Dr. Phil kind of guy, or you're not talking about Dr. Phil, are you?
No. His name is Dr. Phil Valentine.
Okay.
Yeah, he's you have to look him up. He's a preacher. I guess I don't even know if you look it up what they would call him. I think it's a preacher. But anyway, just getting back to what you were saying about flat smacking, because I wish I could have been a person that found a card in my store. I would love to go back in time and see what my reaction would have been if I would have gotten a card that said the Earth is not spinning. Because as I said, once I became a flat earther or started having those beliefs, I remember times in the past that I would walk out my front door or whatever and just kind of look at the world and kind of go like, man, it looks flat. But immediately that escapes your mind. No, we're on a ball, it's spinning. Okay, the sun is still and I'm spinning. You just kind of dismiss it. So to see that card, I would have loved to see what my reaction would have been. Would I have just seen it and say, this is ridiculous, and rip it up and throw it away? Or would I say, what? The Earth is not spinning? Yeah, I've never felt like we're spinning either. And flipped it over and then started the research and fell down the rabbit hole. I'll never get to know if I would have done that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to call into the podcast and say, "Hey, man, I was at Trader Joe's and I saw this card, and I went and I watched this video, and you've ruined my life." I'm waiting for that day to happen. So
I get quite a few of those emails. I get a lot of emails that say, I heard you and I laughed at you and I called you names, and the whole next day at work I was just laughing at you, but it kept being on my mind, things that you said, and then I tuned in another video and then another, and that I didn't sleep for 2 weeks.
Yeah, the I didn't sleep for 2 weeks is a very common story. I do get many people that reach out and say, "I heard you on when you did Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and when you brought up that flat Earth nonsense, I was so pissed and I stopped listening." But you're right. I've gotten hundreds of emails like that. So that helps keep the energy going.
Yeah. And then they say that the 5 stages of denial and anger and bargaining, then depression and acceptance is all included in that email, that they go from the denial to laughing at me to anger to calling me names to bargaining, which is okay, for 2 weeks I'm going to watch this, or I'm going to, like you said before, you went out and tried to debunk it. Like, all right, I'm tired of hearing this. I'm tired of getting all these emails. I'm tired of hearing from close personal friends that the Earth could be flat. And then you go out and try and disprove it, and you fall down that hole. And then the next one they say is the depression, and then the acceptance. And that's, I think, generally true most of the time. And it seems like it's true with the acceptance that the Earth is not the spheroid that we were taught tumbling through an endless space.
When you're when you're flat smacking somebody, or you're talking to them and you're giving them the info, and they're getting to that point where their heads are spinning, unlike the Earth, it's great to say to them, look, we've all been right where you are right now, where you cannot believe it, but somehow somebody got under our skin enough to convince us to stop and take a look and dig in. And that's how you become a flat earther. And so if you tell them that, that might be the one thing that gets them to stop and take a look. The biggest problem we have is people won't stop and take a look. When I was on the Hex podcast,
what is your number one quote that you always say?
What about people, about a lie?
The indoctrination.
Don't you? And now you got me. Yeah. It's condemnation
without investigation.
Without investigation is the admission of your indoctrination.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, that took us both and about 10 minutes to get it out. But I mean, that is the truth. Is that at least, and that's what I mean when I say if you want to believe in your spinning ball, that's fine. But I think everyone should have the opportunity to look into it. And that's the problem is that I was talking about last night. What a scary thought to think that before 2015 that you had a 0% chance of coming out of fourth grade not believing in the spinning ball.
Yeah, that was a good quote. Absolutely. You have a 0% chance.
Right. And then, at least now, if somebody said, Jeran, what are the percent chances now? I'd say, well, at least hopefully they're 1 or 2%. At least maybe some children get to come out of the fourth grade with an open enough mind to say, oh, I've heard some people talk about it being this, or maybe it's this. But at least that opening of the mind is so important in science, especially. That's the whole point of science. That's where people miss the point. Is the point of science is an unbiased observation. And what they did is force-fed you one side of that debate and then taught you about the one, the open-ended. And then kind of you have to believe that, oh, well, the reason we got to all these conclusions is with this open-mindedness from scientists. And they totally forget to mention, oh, by the way, scientists are human beings.
There is a thing happening now where kids are questioning their teachers. Right. I forget who told me the story the other day that a teacher came out. I forget what grade. Might have been high school. It might have even been college, teaching cosmology, and opened the class by saying, "If you think the Earth is flat, leave this classroom now because there's no space for you here." The fact that the teacher had to introduce the class like that says that they've got a problem, and that people are starting to talk to teachers.
Don't want those kind of people in the seats because those kind of people are going to ask questions that don't have answers.
Right, but the teacher told any student that thinks the Earth is flat to leave the class.
Right, because if you ever think that and you're in a class with a teacher, you would have good questions that they wouldn't be able to answer, and that's the last thing a teacher wants. A teacher wants to teach from the curriculum and have the students generally learn from that curriculum. And if they ask questions, the questions are contained right there in the curriculum. I mean, they don't really want to have to go grasping at things or have to look things up. They don't. I'm not saying all teachers, but most teachers probably don't want to do that. So you get out. There's no space for you here if you think the Earth is flat.
A teacher of cosmology is probably the hardest person to convince because their indoctrination is the strongest. That's why they're teaching it.
Yeah, I did. Also, I don't know if you saw that they fired a professor or something for saying that we didn't go to the moon. Did you see that story?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. And actually the student films him teaching this or not. He kind of just mentions that we didn't go to the moon. I can't remember exactly his words. I'll bring it up. But this student then gave it to the principal or whatever, and they fired him because you're not allowed to say we didn't go to the moon if you teach science class. I guess you didn't know that.
I think I heard that, but that's fantastic because now maybe he'll start speaking out,
or maybe he'll just go underground and never say another word. That's
maybe.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Oh, that was it. I was going to look for that particular video because I forgot exactly what he said. I don't remember if he did say exactly. Oh, here it is right here. Let's see what he said. It's only 40 seconds. Hopefully we can hear it, both of us. Let me see.
Space satellites, they make good propaganda. Yeah.
What's your theory on the moon landing again? On the moon landing. What do you think about it?
Actually, it can actually see the moon. You can't land on the moon, but you can see it in detail. What?
That's what I was asking. I don't know.
What's on the moon? There's no atmosphere. Okay, so you don't have this. All right. Yeah, you can see actually great detail. That's about as close as we can get to the moon. Of course, we can't land on it and get back. Okay.
We haven't landed on the moon?
We'll never get to the moon.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but did you hear
he got fired for that?
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, he said, he started off by saying that we can't go to the moon and land on it and come back. And then she said, we've never landed on the moon. And he said, no. So you can't even have your own opinion of a event.
So the person that fired him, does that person know we didn't go to the moon and is trying to protect the secret, or is just indoctrinated and thinks he's crazy?
Absolutely indoctrinated and thinks he's crazy. Yeah, nobody at that level, a school teacher, a professor, that I don't think those guys, the best, in my opinion, the best advocates for your position are ones that really believe it. I don't think the best advocates for your position are liars. A lot of people do think that the best thing you could have on your side is some sort of CIA agent on the inside or whatever, or somebody like that's why people like Neil deGrasse, I think sometimes he just really believes it all. He's into that whole thing. He believes that. He grew up with it. He went to school for it. There's no way in his mind he can even comprehend the idea that the earth isn't what he believes. It's that much of a religion. I know you think that he's in on it, and I've just never he's too dumb.
I think that all the astronomy teachers across the country, across the world, I believe that they don't know.
Okay,
I believe somebody at the level of Bill Nye or Neil Yass, they know. Those guys have to know.
Bill and I have a different opinion. He looks guilty of sin. It's in his eyes, man. That guy is.
Unless the other one is that Neil deGrasse is completely mind controlled, where he, sees a therapist once a week and they hypnotize him and they tell him things and he just is blinded to it, which is a very easy thing to do. He's mind controlled, or he knows.
Yeah, and I don't know how they don't at least admit or understand that they have the PhD in the magical place. There's not very many things you can get a PhD for and be have a doctorate for, go to get your master's for, where you're talking about something that is a storybook. It's not, that's my opinion of the astrophysics. It's all pseudoscience. It's absolute pseudoscience. The whole space adventuring is all pseudoscience. And anybody who doesn't agree with that just needs to look up what the definition of pseudoscience is, because it's exactly what we get. We get a presuppositional belief system that everything is built upon, that you have to adhere to. If you sway from the path, you can get excommunicated from that faith. Pseudoscience consists of statements, beliefs, or practices that are claimed to be both scientific and factual, but are incompatible with the scientific method, which is a lot of what we're saying right about the shape of the earth.
Agreed.
Awesome. And we will be taking calls. I do see quite a few of you lining up, so we'll start taking calls next segment. If you have a question for David or myself, you can call in. That number is 213-233-3998. Again, that's 213-233-3998. Get in line. We will take your calls. And David, we have a whole bunch of fun, don't we?
Yes, sir.
All right. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday night. Oh.
Don't become dependent on the medical system. Get and stay healthy naturally with Extendivite. Metals in the liver cause peroxides to get dumped into the bloodstream. Peroxides do more damage than free radicals to the arteries, and the LDL has no protection from peroxides, causing the LDL to get stuck in the arteries, creating a potential blockage. Extendivite slowly chelates the metals away from the liver so it can dispose of what was meant to be a harmless process, peroxide. Extendivite 7 herbs has a job to strengthen the organs and circulatory highway. Can you afford a heart attack? Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Ew, yuck. They're unhealthy. Bugs. I hate bugs. Our home is clean, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. From contact, it kills bugs. Plus, Orange Guard kills hidden bugs and keeps new bugs away for weeks. The ingredients in Orange Guard are on the FDA generally regarded as safe list. So Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com and Ace Hardware.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Jim Ram, retired. In early 2012, I was facing a laundry list of chronic health conditions that my physician was telling me were incurable. I knew there had to be a better way, and I learned how I could reverse every one of my ailments with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. In just a few months, I was able to reverse high blood pressure, gastric reflux, sleep apnea, arthritis, degenerative disc disease, heart arrhythmia, AFib, and many more. And I've lost over 70 pounds and kept it off. Now I'm hosting a radio program that's dedicated to helping my listeners do the same. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're sick of being used as an ATM by your doctor, then you'll want to tune into the Your DIY Health radio program here on Truth Frequency Radio every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern and 6 to 8 a.m. Pacific.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you for joining us no matter where you might be. I'm here with David Weiss, and we're just basically talking shop. So, yeah, thanks again to everyone listening, even those upside down, getting massive headaches right now. I especially feel that bad for those people. And you, Dave?
Absolutely. Those poor people in Australia. And Iru, is he upside down or is he sideways?
Nah, he's like 3/4 ways, but mostly upside down. Poor Iru.
That could explain his speech patterns. The situation. It's a tough situation for him with the balloon and the Jesuits.
That was funny. Was that offline? Did you hear that last week?
No. What happened?
No, it was before the show. I'd got on and I said, "Hey, Iru, when's the launch?" And he kind of said, later or something, later today. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know your guys' launch was later today." He's like, "Yeah, we have it every day."
Like, oh, lunch.
Yeah, lunch. We're going on and on. I'm like, "Wait, no, I thought the launch was later this week or next week." And he's like, "No, we have lunch every day."
Do you know the rules for the Iru Glowbusters drinking game?
No, well, I only know one of them, and I think about it every time. It's you have to drink every time you hear Jesuits.
Jesuits or situation. You have to take a chug whenever he says the word situation.
Okay.
And that's a dangerous one. And balloon.
Really? Balloon?
Yeah, balloon.
Well, I'm one of those people that don't notice these patterns until after, and then they bug me forever. Like whoever told me that Mark Sargent says, but, because somebody was saying that at one time, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never heard that. And they go, oh, dude, listen to when he's talking. He says it constantly. I'm like, no, he doesn't. Now, every time I listen, I can't help.
Oh, you just ruined it for me. I never knew that.
Oh, no. I feel so bad. I won't mention it again. Don't even try and listen, or you'll never get over it.
Hey, before we get off of flat smacking,
Yes.
there's so many people in the world that need to be woken up, and there's some that just take too much effort to wake up. So you have to know when to just cut your losses and let them go and go to the next person.
Totally agree.
Yeah, Paige and I were at a music festival, and it was what a beautiful weekend we had on the Jersey Shore. And then on Sunday, they started spraying the blue sky, the worst chemtrailing ever, crisscrossing. It was just insane. And I'm walking down the street, and this is a longer story getting to my point. But this little girl was with her. She must have been 7, 8, 10, maybe no older than that, going, the sky looks weird. What is going on up there? And I'm just like, yes. I go, it's geoengineering. And she's like swearing at the sky. She's like, screw you, geoengineering. But I happen to have in my car a stack of geoengineering cards that I made. And so we got those and we started handing them out to people, and people were asking questions, and Paige is there on the boardwalk, and she's got a group of people she's talking to. It's her first time really
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was good. And this one, and they're asking questions and everything. And so then I'm there, and all of a sudden I bring up flat Earth, and there's another woman listening, and she comes over and she goes, are you saying that the Earth is flat? And I say, yeah, I am. She goes, I never thought I'd ever meet a flat earther. She goes, you're insane. And then she keeps going to this woman. Don't listen to them. Go away. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, here, watch this video. She goes, I'm not watching anything. But she kept coming back. And she had to keep interjecting. Right. And so I gave her one argument. I said, can I ask you a question? She's like, sure. I go, if the Earth is a sphere, you would have to there has to be a formula for its curvature. And she's like, oh, I agree. And I explained the formula, and I said that, but we can see things that should be thousands of feet over the curve. And she goes, oh, you got me there. Earth is flat. Don't talk to me anymore. and then I tried to tell her one more thing, and she's like, get away from me. You're crazy. And I'm just, and I just saw it, and I just walked away. That's it, because there's other people to talk to that won't drain the energy out of you.
No, that's what I say too. I always say I wish everybody had an opportunity to consider it, and then from there, if you've tried to explain to somebody and you've given her as much information as you did, and she chooses to keep treating you like that and telling people not to listen to you, I mean, that's when you just have to recognize that she has a belief in a religion that's not going to go away. Certainly not with something you're telling her.
For sure.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Let's go to the phones real quick. We got our first caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where you from?
Hey, Jeran. Hi, David. It's Brian from Niagara Falls, otherwise known as Ginger Sugar Bush 905.
Did you know that? Ginger Sugar Bush 905?
Ginger Sugar Bush with the worst channel name and the worst channel icon. Welcome.
Hey, that's a pretty good
David, you know I love you.
David used to have the worst icon, so it's
I did, but somebody fixed it for me.
I'm going to keep it short, guys, because I'm sure you got a bunch of calls lined up, and I'm not going to call back, Jeran. Sorry about that for just me doing that. Anyway,
people knew that.
You're talking about flat smacking.
Yep.
But yeah, so I don't know if I told you last time we talked, Jeran, that my house is for sale. So I've got random people walking through my house, just seeing if they want to buy it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But Sorry?
I said, no, you hadn't told me that yet.
No, that's part of the crap that's been going on that I didn't want to talk about on air, although that's not the worst of the crap.
Oh,
But
no.
nevertheless, when the people are walking through, I've either got Glowbusters playing or I've got a playlist of Alex's Conspiracy Music Guru music going.
Oh, nice. You get a lot of questions? Or does anybody say anything?
Majority of them are not paying attention, but I'm planting seeds, I hope.
Do you play Paul on the Plains Flat Earth Music Channel in the background? Do you know that he
I
has
actually
a
didn't know Paul had one.
24/7? Yeah, he has. Well, there you go.
There
He
you
has
go.
a 24/7 Flat Earth Music Channel, and he's very upset at me that I didn't mention it in the last podcast. So I'm mentioning it here.
Well, yeah, because Flat Earth Dude does it on Thursdays. He'll have like a good 4 or 5 hours of just Flat Earth music going, and it's been fantastic just catching that. But
Awesome.
yeah, I will definitely check out Paul on the Plains 24 feed because it'll be perfect to have in the background when random people are invading my privacy.
He set it up just like MTV with the astronaut logo. It's FMTV or something, FEMTV, FETV.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And he's got. I have an on-air suggestion for Paul. He's got a lot of great tunes on there, and he's got some that are just god awful. And one of the favorite stations, I have Sirius radio on my Sirius fake satellite radio in my car. One of the stations we listen to basically plays the same 15 songs again and again and again. They just take the top 15 songs and play them again and again and again. There's no problem repeating a good song. So weed out the ones that don't work and just keep the good ones, and people will keep listening.
He's telling you to get rid of anything with my wife and I, basically.
You didn't even make the crappy list there.
It's that bad. It didn't get considered.
Yeah.
So anything else? Ginger Sugar Bush 905.
Oh, the worst.
No, but if you can talk like during break, keep me on hold and I'll tell you what actually went down. Otherwise, if you can't talk during break, then I'm sure
that would work.
We'll talk another time.
We need the.
I don't know how that works.
Break.
Yeah, no, I don't know how that works anyway because I think everybody else would be able to hear you. So it wouldn't be very
well.
Private.
Fair enough.
All right. Well,
yeah,
we'll
not
talk
at
soon.
all.
I'll comment on one of your simulcasts. Are you simulcasting tonight? Hello to the bushwhacking crew, if so.
Yep. We're going. We got a bunch of great people in here. So love everyone that shows up every week. And yeah, I will try my best not to call back in.
It's okay if you do. At least I know that one person's listening. See, that's the thing. That makes me happy.
Oh,
All
no,
right.
you got quite a few.
All right, well,
Quite a few, at least on my end.
All right. Well, next time I ask.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Hey, appreciate it.
All right, man. And our next caller is Wes. Just a prediction.
Really? That'd be
No.
awfully amazing. Hi, Wes. Is you're on with Jeranism RAW. Who's this? Where you from?
Hey, man, this is Jake, North Carolina. This is not Wes.
What's going on? How are you?
What's up, Jake?
What's going on, man? Glad to hear you on the show, brother.
Thank you.
I wanted to say something about
think he was
chemtrails. I
talking to
do
me.
have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was. But anyway, so
That's
I do have a question. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna save my question for last. Okay, but the first thing I wanted to say was about the chemtrails or the cloud seeding or whatever. I live on the East Coast, and we just got flooded with that hurricane. Right after that, they were cloud seeding. I want to challenge everyone to call their local news stations. Please, just ask them, do they think aluminum pieces and plastic pieces will cool the earth off? I mean, do we really think that?
People don't even believe that they're spraying. That's the problem. They even though Harvard admits it, If you look up Solar Shield 2017 Harvard, they admit that they're spraying to cool off the planet. Whether it's to cool off the planet or not, they admit that they're spraying, but people still don't believe it.
Right. So even if they don't believe it, I mean, the news, they might have to admit it if you bring out the Harvard statement or whatever. So if everyone would please get on your local news stations and please challenge them. Say, go into a greenhouse. Is it hotter or is it cooler? Is it plastic? Take some aluminum, get inside of an aluminum can, go outside, put some aluminum or some plastic in some water and some moisture and put the sun on the other side.
Do you know that if you get inside of an aluminum can, you could run through a steel and cement building? But I digress.
Oh, okay. My question is this now.
Bring it down.
This might be a new question.
Good.
So I'm looking at the thing about the sun, moon, and stars, and all the scripture talks about the signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And I know that the chemtrails are another way to cover that up so we can't see it. So not only are they poisonous, but they're covering things up. But my question is this: in Revelation, I think it's the 8th chapter and verse 12, it talks about the 4th angel sounding his trumpet, and it says the sun is smitten, the moon is smitten, and a third of the stars are smitten, so that so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for the third part of it, and the night likewise. Now, this is my question. Do you think that the sun will be shaped like the moon, like a crescent, not showing a third part of its light, or do you think it will be dimmer? And if it's dimmer, would that prove that it's closer to us? In that statement that it's not going to show for a third part of the day and the night likewise.
All right, we'll answer off the line. I appreciate the call. David, do you have an answer for that one?
I do not have an answer. It's anything is possible. The stories of the stars falling from the sky and the sun going dark, that used to seem impossible to me. Now it seems very possible. I have no idea what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I don't either. And as my opinion is well known about the Bible, but regardless of that, so much truth in the Bible and so much that I think is used as a playbook, basically. That they're kind of playing by the script. And so, I don't know. I tend to think that there is some sort of cataclysmic event that happens a lot more frequently than maybe we know. And I mean, we meaning us peons. I think people at high levels might know about it, might even know when it happens, and might be part of the reason why they're not real frightened of the flat earth. I don't know. It seems like they're frightened, but sometimes I think that they might have a different end game in play. You know what I'm saying, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the chemtrails are directly related into hiding what's happening in the sky more than controlling the weather, which I do believe that they use these frequencies and chemicals to do that. But I think it's more about hiding what's in the sky.
Let me run one by you. You tell me what you think of this one. So, they're always kind of playing one step ahead. And wouldn't it be a unique angle to play let's say that basically with all the coal mining and the digging in the earth that they've done, let's say they have affected the atmosphere heavily to the point where now, there's a lot of gases at the lower end of the atmosphere where we live, where we breathe. And so it's getting hotter here. It's warming the earth. Let's say that there is some sort of global warming going, all the fault, obviously, of governments and these corporations. Let's say that that's the case. And so they've started to use this chem spray, aluminum, barium mixture to reflect the sun. They're trying to fix in some way what they've already damaged, but by calling it global warming and then making it a joke to the point where NASA has been caught faking documents, where lots of things are proven to show that this is just an agendic push. But the problem would be if they really did damage the earth. What I'm saying is, let's say it does start to heat up, then it's just clearly blamed on the conspiracy theorists, who are the ones who said, no, there is no warming of the environment. You know what I'm saying? That they're kind of setting us up for one where it's their fault of what they've done. Clearly, it looks like they're trying to do something with chem spraying. That's this cloud seeding. They're trying to control the environment, control the weather. I'm just wondering if they're going to turn that back and blame it on people who
no
didn't.
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Quick before we get off of chemtrails, when they were spraying the sky, it was just so obvious at this festival. I was waiting for Paige, who was getting changed, and I had the cards in my hand, and there was a police officer directing traffic, and I walked up to him and I said, "I'd like to report a crime." And he looks at me, he's like, "What?" And I point up at the sky. I go, "Do you see that?" I go, "They are spraying poison on us." He goes, "What is that?" Gave him a card. We talked for 15 minutes, asking me questions, and I'm just waiting to stick my hand in my pocket and get him a flat Earth card. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with the chemtrails, with the geoengineering.
Not going to trust.
Try not to call it chemtrails, because that's a word that's been psyopted like conspiracy theorists. When you're talking to somebody, call it geoengineering, spraying the skies with chemicals, but try to stay away from the word chemtrails.
Cloud seeding, perhaps?
Cloud seeding, for sure. And when people say, is it pollution? Well, yes, it's pollution, but it's not. They're spraying it on purpose. You have to tell them that they're spraying it on purpose. I was listening to Marty Leeds 33, who had Crow 777 on last week. And Marty was talking about, he lives in Hawaii, and when the stars are so clear there that he can see the dome of the sky. He can see the what they call the Milky Way, which, we're looking sideways through the spiral disk, which is nonsense. But he can actually see the sky doming down. And I remember seeing that. Maybe it was when I was in Hawaii, but somewhere where the stars were super clear, when you have an unbelievably clear night. And I'm thinking that, 10 years ago, maybe even less, people weren't thinking flat Earth. But now there's so many people that are thinking about it, but we can't look up and see it anymore. You can't look up and see. Maybe they saw this awakening happening, and that's what they're hiding. They just don't want us to get confirmation of what we are figuring out.
Yeah, and you know
just
what?
A thought.
When Miss and I drove down south and we stopped at some random place out in the middle of nowhere off the 101, and I remember we got out of the car and looked up, and I mean, it was unbelievable. This canopy of stars is right on top of you. And there's thousands, and it's right there, and you're like, holy shit. I mean, it was awe-inspiring, and something that, I don't get anywhere in town or even at the outskirts of town, nothing even close to it. This was way out where it was pitch black. We had just happened to pull over to let the dog use the restroom, and, looked up and you're like almost mesmerized. And I think if people saw that every day, there's no way they would have a belief that those things are 25 trillion miles away, which is a joke.
Yeah. Trillion, my favorite word.
Oh boy. I just don't think people even can grasp it or comprehend it. We've talked about it before that I always get it wrong, but a trillion seconds is 31,000 years, which
you got to stop when you say that. You have to stop. 31,000 years.
Right. And that's just 1 trillion seconds. Right. And yet the closest star is 25 trillion miles. And you just see it up there, just shining. Mm-hmm.
Right there. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, right. It's right there.
Yeah, even when, now I go out and look out, I just have to laugh. I mean, that's all I ask people to do is go out and look up and really think of what they're telling you is going on and just really try and comprehend that and then say, okay, where's the evidence that these things are true? And when you go looking for the evidence, you got a problem. Hey, when we get back from break, we are going to take a little quick side road to talk about an experiment that is currently being funded. I believe it's been funded, or at least he's going to go ahead with it already. And that's Mitchell from Australia. He is a friend of the show in that he's called in many times. People will recognize him. And a while back, I was talking about a possible experiment with a Spectra fishing line. David, you and I have talked on the side about it quite a bit. Did you hear Globebusters yesterday where this was discussed?
I did. Did the Globebusters end and you didn't when Bob was having the problem and then you didn't come back? Was that the end of the show?
Yeah, it was miserable though because Bob said, "Okay, I'm going to shut down Skype and I'll be right back," and then he hung up. So I thought I had to take over the show. So I said, "Okay, well," and I started going on about my FOIA stuff. Well, I talked for like 10 or 15 minutes until
bummer.
I stopped and said, "Is Bob back? Bob, you there?" And then Ranty Flat Earth said, "I don't think that you're live, Jeran." I said, "What?" And then Erie was like, "No, I can hear you fine." I'm like, "Okay, you can hear me fine. We're fine." And then he's like, "No, I don't think on the live stream that anybody's hearing you, and haven't heard you since you started talking." I'm like, "Holy smokes!" And I guess come to find out, Bob's Skype had frozen, and it wouldn't let him load the show again. So that was the end of it. Climactic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. I listened to it on my drive home, which was nice. 2-hour drive went by in like 10 minutes. It was great.
I do like that for drives. It's always nice, like even something that used to be a forever drive for me, or 3 hours or something now, because that's just one Globebusters. That's easy to get through.
Right.
I now judge everything in Globebusters time. So when we get back, we're going to talk with Mitchell from Australia. If you want to help out or to donate to that, we'll talk about that. If you're down in Australia and could lend a hand, he's opened up the volunteer sheet. He says he can use lots of help, and we'll just talk about how it got transferred kind of from me to him. And David, you know Mitchell well, right?
Oh yeah, he's in love with me. You know that.
I do know that. Yes, I've heard some video evidence or some audio evidence of that.
Maybe we play that. Yeah. Hey, before we go, before Mitchell comes on, you know how people see the moon during the day and say they can see the blue sky through the moon?
Yeah, not a big fan of that one.
Me neither. And I kind of figured out what it is. It's kind of simple. What the sky is just the limit of our sight through the atmosphere, and it just becomes sky. If you watch a series of mountains going into the distance, they get lighter and lighter and lighter until it just becomes sky because you can't see through it anymore. Right? Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the moon, when it's lit up, that light is coming to your eyes, and that light can travel. The light of the moon can travel and make it to your eyes, but the darker spots fade out and become sky before, at a shorter distance. So the darker spots are just the limit of that little amount of light. You have a dim light and a bright light. The bright light can make it to you. The dim light can't. The dim light is the dark spot. So we're now seeing sky in front of the moon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I think you're just talking about when you look off into the distance at, say, some cliffs. We've seen a lot of photographic evidence of that, right? 4 or 5 cliffs that go off into the distance, and the 4th and 5th cliff become, slowly transparent. So you're just saying the same thing, the distance that you're looking at the unlit portion of the moon.
The lesser lit portion of the moon. It's dimmer, so that light fades out
because of the distance.
Because of the distance.
Gotcha.
So you're just seeing the sky there. So when the moon's not lit at all, you don't see the moon at all. But the brighter part of the moon makes it to you, and those darker spots are blue. And so the same thing is true at night, right, where that dimmer light looks like there's black. It's just the you're not seeing the light. That's it. It's the limit. It's the limit of the light traveling to your eye.
Well, yeah, and then after we talk with Mitchell, I do want to talk about some of your drone footage, because I think I even heard Nathan Oakley describing it yesterday, which I think is described perfectly when you start talking about that atmospheric horizon and the fact that when you're down at the ground level, you're always going to be looking through a atmosphere that will eventually block the sun, starting with it kind of reflecting the upper half of it, and then kind of giving the appearance of it still being the full sun as it disappears and goes off into the distance. Isn't that what you would say you found?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then I also want to talk about JT Tolan Media One. You know what channel that is, David, I'm talking about?
What channel?
J Tolan Media One, I think is the name of the channel.
I do not know that.
Oh, he's the guy doing all the IR footage. Anyway, we'll talk more about it.
Oh, yeah, that great channel.
Yeah. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
The Kavanaugh probe, new trade deal. I'm Ann Cates. The FBI continues to conduct its probe into sexual misconduct allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona says it's an important step.
We have to realize that we may not be able to find out everything that happened. This is something that was a while ago. Some witnesses or potential witnesses may not want to cooperate, but for those that can and those who we can compel to cooperate, we've got to do a fulsome investigation.
A lawyer for longtime Kavanaugh friend Mark Judge says he has spoken to the FBI, but the interview has not been completed. The U.S. has reached a pact with its neighbors.
The president called the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, which will replace NAFTA, the most important trade deal ever.
It will transform North America back into a manufacturing powerhouse.
The president said at a Rose Garden news conference, U.S. farmers and ranchers will benefit because they'll be able to sell more to Canada and Mexico, and he says it'll mean a new dawn for the U.S. auto industry and U.S. workers. But the measure needs congressional approval, and the president acknowledged he's not confident, noting the midterm elections could have a big impact. Jerry Bodlander at the White House.
Rescue efforts continue after an earthquake and tsunami devastated an Indonesian island. Correspondent Matt Rivers.
Roads are still cut off. The airport still isn't operating at a normal capacity. It's a small airport to begin with. And so when you're talking about getting the aid in here that these people need, you need roads. You need airports to be working. And that's the immediate challenge facing authorities, getting all of this access open to these areas so that people can begin to get the aid they so desperately need.
A mixed start to the trading week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 193 points. The S&P up 11. The Nasdaq fell 9 points. I'm Ann Cates.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick all the lies. Whispers from afar.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. I'm here with David Weiss, and also joining the show for now is Mitchell from Australia. Mitchell, are you there?
Hey, how you going? Can you hear me good?
I can hear you good. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Cool.
I know you've been a caller many times, correct?
Yeah, correct. Today's looks like it's going to be a bit different. I just saw Dave's car at the front. Is he here somewhere?
Dave is here.
That was one of the best lines. If I see Jeran's car there, I'm going to go crazy or something. Very funny.
Let's listen to a little song by Mitchell from Australia here. one of the.
Davy, do you love me? Are you riding? Say you never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you and I need you. And I'm down for you always, CJ. Do you love me? Are you riding? You never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you and I need you. And I'm down for you always.
I think me and Mitchell are going to get together and do a duet soon. It's in the workings.
Fantastic.
Dave, it's going to be for you.
Now that you've blown his credibility, nobody's going to donate to the cause.
I think more people.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. I think there's a lot of dedication in that voice.
This is a tough, isn't it? Are you going to ask me to marry you, Dave, or something? Why are we both here?
I'm the witness. I'm going to go ahead and hear this one out. No.
Only at the conference. If you come to the conference, I'll consider it.
Mitchell, are you going to the conference?
Yeah, I'm coming now if we're going to get married, Dave. It's all set now.
It's a short drive to Vegas from Denver. I think you could probably do it in 9 hours.
Oh, anything's legal now, isn't it?
I guess so. That's true. Probably in Colorado, you can even do it high.
All right, enough of this. Let's get on with the torque, the line, because I have questions.
Yeah, he's had questions from day one. He's liked the experiment from day one, as did Mitchell. Him and I chat on Telegram, which is an app, by the way, not like through Telegram. But he talked to me about it when I first started mentioning it, and he was very interested, and I thought some of the things he said were my sentiment exactly, that there is no mechanical experiment that I've seen anybody perform that shows us the actual measurement of the curvature of the Earth or lack thereof. And this test, and I'll let Mitchell kind of describe it a little bit, I think does that better than anything else I've seen for a reasonable price. It's not free, but I think it's doable. So Mitchell, tell everybody your opinion of it. And I think I like the way that you talk about it being that you're not a flat earther or a globe earther. I think that whether that's true or not, but you're really doing an experiment where you're not doing it with a bias, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like I'm very skeptical. Like I've been looking into things since I was a kid, kind of aliens, and I was 12 when 9/11 happened, and I was just always been looking into things, like not just having one opinion about things. And as soon as Flat Earth came along, I kind of was looking into it too. And I'm like literally I'm still on the fence. Like I want physical kind of mechanical proof, and I think this experiment can provide that. It's more than optical. It takes refraction index however the equation. There's no atmospheric conditions that anyone can say that anything opposite is happening than what's actually happening. Do you want me to go into the experiment?
Yeah, I think that most of the listeners will be generally kind of familiar with it as I described it in the past, but I think describing exactly what your experiment will be, the distance that you want to use, and and your communication with the guy from New Zealand that deals with the kite fishing.
Yeah, well, at the moment I've got 2 locations. The first one is 2.2 miles across. So the theory behind it is you've already kind of explained it a fair good on your show, but like running a fishing line across that 2.2 miles and pulling it tight. If there's a bulge, the line will want to go under, and that'll be measurable. Now, there's a physical and mechanical test, and obviously, if the line doesn't go under, I can't see why else there is any. I think that's good evidence to say that it is flat, or at least the water is flat.
Right, and so kind of get a picture in people's mind. If you picture the hump that they say is supposedly between you and any other object on the Earth, if you were able to draw some sort of flat line, you could measure whether or not that hump cut that line, which is hard to do in reality. But what we found is a kite fishing string called Spectra, and it's got all the details and all the scientific numbers along with it, and calculators that you can put in to get basically its test strength and its buoyancy, its special gravity, and find out. And what we did was, because any line, or not we did, but what's kind of come out for this experiment is because if you have any line and it's suspended at 2 places, there's going to be sag. which is going to be a problem when you're trying to pull it tight. You have that sag. But by getting this Spectra line that is buoyant, meaning it will float on the salt water that Mitchell's going to do it on, then all of a sudden you're able to pull that line. And what we're talking about, what are you thinking of doing, about an inch high, or what is your experiment call for on each side?
Well, at the moment, it's going to be at water level because I think they'll get the best results. If not, maybe an inch under the water, just to kind of negate the surface area of the water, if you know what I mean.
Excellent.
Although, yeah, the Spectra is super thin, like it's only a third of a mil thick, so there's not much that it has to kind of cut through of the surface.
What color is it?
Your guess is as good as mine at the moment. I've ordered it, but I haven't.
I think it has to be a clear or a because I was talking to the guy and he said once you've added any color, you're going to add weight because it's either dyed or something. So I think the color is like a transparent, a translucent.
So how are you going to see it under the water? It's going to be invisible.
Not quite invisible. It does show up under the water. I've seen videos of it. He's shown me that it does actually. You can see it, and so I will be able to kind of stick a camera under there and use a steel ruler to actually measure if there is any. What
about at like quarter-mile marks, spray painting it with a neon color, just a little bit, minimal amount of weight.
It is a minimal amount of weight, but if you listen to the specs on it, it's the whole total spool of 5,000 meters is only 400 grams. So
right. So that's what I'm saying. But like, how are you going to prove you're at the middle? How are you going to prove where you are? Just documenting all of that, it's going to be very difficult. So I'm just thinking if you took every quarter of a mile, you spray painted it, orange, yellow, or whatever, for a foot or two, then you could know exactly where you are, and it would be a lot easier to document. Just an idea.
Yeah, just an idea. Yeah. I think I agree with it too. If you're talking about starting underneath the water, if you're underneath, and even at the surface level, and you do add, obviously not on the water, but beforehand, a little bit of a touch of spray paint, just a little bit, just so it can be documented. I think that's a good idea too, because otherwise, I guess you're going to have cameras in the water trying to see. How do you plan on doing that with a camera at the center location? That's where you're going to be?
That's where I'm planning to be in the kayak, yeah. I'm going to have a person each side watching the dynamometers to make sure the tension is what it's meant to be, so it doesn't snap, and to prove that it's actually being pulled tight. If you look at the picture, I was on Globe Buses last night. I said it again for you. There's 2 bits of land that stick out that go into the middle of the lake. So there can be people on that also looking. That's kind of in either side of the middle, and then with me in the middle, it should be enough to document actually where it is.
What he's describing is kind of if you picture a lake, and then you can just go to Globebuster's show yesterday to see it, but picture a lake, but out of the side of it come almost 2 nipples, and you have one person at the end of each of those, and then he would be at the center, and that kind of constitutes the, a person at the edge, and a person at a quarter, a person at a half, a person at 3/4, and a person all the way at the other end. So it's a pretty nice little setup as far as that goes. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's also an option. I'm willing to take like a phone or an iPad out in the middle, and with using GPS, which I've found has been pretty accurate. I'll line up exactly where I am, and I'm not just using Google Maps and Google Earth. I've got a site. It's a paid site. It's a commercial site for big businesses called Near Maps. And this is like super accurate down to the inch. Like you can zoom right in, and this needs to be perfect for commercial settings because they use this for laying cable, for measuring how long roads are, for materials and that sort of thing. So this site is like 100% accurate, and that's what I'm. Yeah,
hey, maybe instead of spray paint, you could actually get just a little piece of neon ribbon, just a little hair tie, and just tie a tassel on it. Marking quarter miles or half miles, whatever it is. That way you'll have the GPS. That'll be confirmed by the actual piece of color on the line. Because the argument, thinking like a baller, you say the line is it floats, and in salt water it'll float more. So instead of having the catenary curve sag. It's going to have a float, an opposite of a sag. So the baller, me being a baller, I would say the argument is it's just floating along the surface. And that's why it looks flat, because it's floating in the middle. Just like if you hung it in the air, it would hang down.
So you're talking about actually adding weight to it to give you more.
Yeah, so you have to find a ribbon that would sink or at least be neutral, because the key is if you do it across the surface, great. But if you do it an inch under the surface and you can measure an equal inch all the way across, boom, you're done. You've done it. You've proved it.
It's still flat.
Yeah, it's still flat, because if it's an inch under at the edges and in the center, then you can prove that it's not floating in the center.
Yeah, again, just for people to picture at home, because I think once you picture it, you'll realize why it's such a strong experiment with that hump in between you. If you picture the kind of curvature of the Earth and the way that all water would have to be curved equally like that, if that's the surface of the Earth, well, from the two ends, once he pulls it tight, you should get that line to drop in the middle. And you said you're doing 2.2 miles, so that's a drop in the center of about 9.5 inches. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there'll be a bulge of 9.5 inches. And the actual lift that I've calculated on the line will only be under 3 inches. So there should be a measurable bulge of 6.5 inches in the middle if it is curved.
Right. And so, if just thinking about that, it gets pretty insane, because
let me argue that point.
Go ahead.
That your calculation for the floating bulge is wrong. That's my argument.
How it is.
How so?
It's just wrong. You're wrong, because the Earth is not flat and it's floating more than that. That's why you're getting that measurement, and you can't prove me wrong.
Well, I can, because I've had this argument, and I've been arguing with someone that it's kind of a similar argument of how the water is level and flat everywhere. It follows the curve of the Earth. If you kind of follow me, that's what these people are saying, that the line will just follow the curve of the Earth. With this calculation, you need 3 pieces of information to actually work it out: the diameter and the specific gravity. That's to just find out the buoyancy. But then you actually use the total line strength and gravity of the Earth, or whatever that effect is, to actually figure out per foot what the buoyancy value is, or the sag value is. So this isn't just a static body of water. This is a line under a physical tension, and there's no way when it's pulled taut that it can actually follow anything else than that force that it's been put under, if you follow me.
So with the tension that you're planning on putting on it, you think it's actually going to float that, what'd you say, 3 inches?
That's the maximum value over that length.
But do you believe that it will actually float that 3 inches, or do you believe that you're going to be pulling it so it's not going to have any reverse sag?
Well, this calculations, actually takes into account the value of gravity. So this is another good kind of experiment to actually see if the value of gravity is correct, because that's what you need for this line sag calculator. And if obviously I pull it tight and that float or that sag isn't as much as what has been calculated.
So another baller Dave here. I thought you flat earthers don't believe in gravity. Why are you using that calculation?
Just to make you happy, mate. That's what it is.
I'm just trying to get to a situation where they have no argument. I'm hoping that even with that calculation, that if you pull it a quarter of an inch under the water at both ends, and the lake is calm enough where it'll be a quarter of an inch under the middle, then there's no more argument. But if there's a variation in the middle, the calculation on how much that's floating will be an endless argument that will never go away.
Well, that's where I'm trying to come at it from the baller point of view as well. That's why I'm trying to kind of factor in gravity and do the calculations as if it is on a globe Earth.
Honestly, so does the guy that originally I was working with that is selling the Spectra line, and the guy that now is talking with Mitchell, because he's doing it and he knows the test, but he's coming at it from a globe Earth perspective. trying to show, or that the Earth is curved, which I don't have a problem with, because we think that in all his attempts, he's not going to be able to do it. At least in my opinion, that's what I'm saying, is I want him to show me that the Earth is curved. So if he's got the particular line that's going to be able to submerge in the middle, then I want to see that.
That's exactly right. I'm coming from an actual baller's perspective. This is a test that the ballers should be doing to prove the Earth is curved.
Right, and the saddest part about it is if it doesn't show that, none of them will even retract, Dave. It's not that's the saddest part.
No, yeah. Well, I'm trying to do everything I can to make everyone happy and kind of get both sides of the argument on board with this experiment, because I can see it proving either side. That's why, I think.
And then it just needs to be repeated, I mean, either way. For me, it's great. I contributed to the GoFundMe because I think no matter which result you come up with, though, is going to make me want to do it myself. But I think that knowing what you come up with is going to be great. I'm pretty sure, and I think people who listen to the show understand that it's just a test that we're looking for to show that this curvature that they say is there is not there. Because if you picture, and I wish you could do this test, if you picture a 2-mile long plexiglass container, and so somebody builds this 2-mile long plexiglass container, and you can fill it with fresh water, and it's only 8 inches high, so it's just an 8-inch high kind of trough for 2 miles, and you put this spectral line at each end, and you pull it taut. Just think what that means. That means that the Earth would be curved at that point, and it would cause that spectral line to dip 8 to 9 inches in the center of that tank, touching the bottom of the tank. So that is what would be the case if we were on a globe Earth. I know that we would not see that. Now it's just a matter of trying to show it experimentally.
That's right. I think that's what the end product should be from this. There should be something set up exactly how you say, and left there for people to actually go and view, just to prove what's actually happening here. Like, that's
right. Imagine you go to some sort of museum or whatever it might be, some sort of outdoor structure where you've got this huge 8-inch trough, and anybody can go to any section of it and they can measure it and see that it's exactly 8 inches tall, and it's let's say it's 4 inches wide, whatever. And you can go to either end and you can pull or crank, whatever you have to do if you need a wheel or whatever you need, or a spool, something to crank that tight enough to where you'll see it in the center drop down and touch the bottom of the 8-inch tank. That's crazy to me. I don't think that that's reality. I don't think that we would see that. So now it's just a matter of getting that going, and I think this test is a great starting point, because if it shows the results I think it'll show, then that's the kind of thing you can start carrying around and showing people, possibly media, and getting it to be done on a larger scale or more professionally with, because we don't have the money to buy a 2-mile long acrylic tank is going to cost $1 million. That's something we don't have, but something that these universities and other scientific entities have readily available at any time. They can spend that kind of money on an experiment.
That's right. That's kind of the route that I'm going with. I need to apply for permission to use the freshwater lake. They're asking me why I'm doing this experiment and who will benefit. And I'm going down the route of, at the moment, there's no physical evidence to show the curvature of the Earth. Like, this will be a good experiment for school children to do, to repeat and replicate, to actually show the physical nature of the world around us.
I think Globbers should be excited about it, but I have a feeling they're deathly afraid of it. That's
kind of the feeling that I'm getting too. I've got a lot of interest from Globbers, and they're saying that, there's no doubt that there will be a bulge in the middle, but I think in the back of their minds they're running through the numbers and thinking, I can't see a bulge being in between this.
Right, and then if you draw that line out, and this is what we're talking about when we say on a larger scale, I don't know how much more feasible it gets, but the further you go, the bigger that hump gets, to the point where if you were to picture the Earth as a ball of water, of course they say it's molten iron and everything else, that technically somebody at the North Pole to somebody at the South Pole should have a line, that line going straight through the center of the Earth. When you're talking about that hump, it's just back it up to a much smaller scale. But even at as you get out further, 4, 5, 6, 7 miles, that hump gets progressively huge.
That's right, and I actually had a comment on the YouTube page. Someone proposed doing this with a neutrally buoyant rope, and I think that across the Salton Sea and across miles and miles, there should be feet of curvature or bulge to be measured. And I think the key to this is just finding a material with a neutrally buoyant specific gravity, and I think this will work anywhere.
What did they say to do it? You said they said to do it on a boat? I didn't hear what you said.
They said they were proposing to do it across the Salton Sea. I think he's put a bit of effort into it because he's spec'd it out and he's found a actual rope. I think it's a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch thick rope, and it's absolutely neutrally buoyant. I think the value is just over 1. And he proposes that he wants to do it across the Salton Sea, across a few, I think maybe 11 miles or something crazy like that.
Doesn't the Salton Sea have currents?
Does it? Yeah.
I would assume it does, and waves. I think I've seen them.
Yeah, right, okay.
But so, you're talking 11 miles, though, Dave. The bulge on 11 miles is 20 feet.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just thinking the current's can pull the line in all different directions.
Could it pull it down 20 feet? I mean, that's a huge height when you're talking water.
Yep.
It's not very often people are 20 feet deep. So, I mean, to me, if you're talking about that distance and you could find a buoyant rope that's strong enough to do that, I mean, that's when you start to get into those experiments that I think mainstream would be afraid of and haven't been done. And there's a reason, in my opinion, why none of this stuff has been done. If the Earth was the ball that they have claimed, this experiment would have been done a long time ago and would be up somewhere, like Mitchell said, where people could go take field trips, show children, because it would be self-evident proof rather than just telling them when they're, in 3rd grade or 1st grade and sending them on their way believing horseshit, in my opinion.
That's exactly right. Like here in Australia, we have an ABC children's channel just for children, and I've got an 8, a 5, and a 3-year-old, and my 5-year-old comes up to me and goes, "That's where we live, on a ball," because it shows that every single kids program on that channel has a globe, has a ball, has space, has something on it. He's not even at school yet, and he's coming up to me saying that's where we live.
Yeah, Dave did an excellent video again where he shows the Sesame Street episode. David, tell about that one. That's pretty sad. You have a good story with that when you were a kid.
Well, you know what? I think it's a possible false memory. It might be something else because I was doing a little research. Somebody brought it up, a baller that's been fact-checking me, and that came out when I was like 11 or maybe even older. So maybe I didn't know then. I was proud of myself then when I said, "That's not the Earth. That's not the Earth." But I do remember seeing something like that when I was a kid. But the Yip Yaps is total mind control. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, you have no chance of escaping that. And it's funny because these guys go out and they try and stop religion from being taught in schools, or they don't want anything, and they just don't recognize that what they're doing is their own form of religion, just forced through public education. Crazy.
And I think it's going to take a lot to kind of reverse a lot of that indoctrination. I think a lot of people are on the fence right now, and this is kind of a pivotal point in flat Earth as a globe Earth. I think a lot of people are just looking for one solid proof that is undeniable, and I think this experiment can provide that, and a lot of people are going to jump on board after they see what the results of this is and kind of replicating and seeing it happening everywhere.
Mitchell, how do you feel, just jumping back to your kids, when they're coming across going, "This is where we live"? What do you say? Are you saying anything to them?
My 5-year-old, I think, he kind of is in the middle, because like he sees what I do and what I talk about, and then he sees what's on TV and he says, "Why are they showing this if that's not where we live?" And I say to him, "Is that a picture? Is that an animation, like a computer?" So he kind of understands like the difference between a real picture and animation that he sees on these kids' TV shows.
All right, hang tight. We got a break coming up. Don't go anywhere. We will continue on with Mitchell and get the details of this experiment. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Stay in school, they said. Use your tools, they said. But being on TV looks pretty.
Hi there, Chris Gio here. If you're like me, you've heard many shows on TFR discussing the healing benefits of CBDs, the non-psychoactive component of the hemp plant. But with so many options out there, you've probably wasted a ton of money on hemp oils that contain alcohol, solvents, tasted horrible, or simply didn't work. That's why I'm pleased to let you know about Aya Life, a 99% pure CBD oil extract made with all organic ingredients. And best of all, it tastes great, and it works. But Aya Life is much more than just a hemp oil extract. It's a special blend of high-potency CBDs infused with B-Cappy, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. If you're looking to help alleviate pain, inflammation, tremors, anxiety, depression, or simply rebalance your mind, body, and soul, head on over to ayalife.com and get free shipping with coupon code TFR. That's ayalife.com. AYA-life.com.
My name is David. I suffered from MS or multiple sclerosis symptoms since 1986. For years, doctors tried to help, but didn't give me any real hope. I tried almost everything. I was afraid this was my future, but I did not give up hope. 8 years ago, a healthcare worker told me about Regenistem. I called Regenistem. Regenistem explained how stem cells worked. No promises, just a simple explanation of the science. They treated me with respect and understood my journey. For the first time, I felt hope. Now I can jog and snow ski once again. It's been amazing. I have been symptom-free of multiple sclerosis for 8 years. I have learned that stem cell therapy has a broad range of medical therapy from COPD to chronic pain and diabetic neuropathy. It's an amazing therapy. If you want to talk about your chronic pain or your chronic symptoms, call Regenistem today.
Call 305-224-1858. That's 305-224-1858. 305-224-1858.
Once in a decade, a true story comes along that remembers the future. After 6 Amazon bestsellers, I have completed the epic Birth Trilogy, a true story of Earth. By reading the Birth Trilogy, you will journey with the characters from the origin of Earth to its final destiny in a white-knuckle ride that combines the intrigue of Tom Clancy with the epic scope of Prometheus and Interstellar. You will learn more about the purpose of life, the mystery of death, and the true nature of your soul than you thought possible. The Birth Trilogy is now available on Amazon and Kindle. The audio version is a free bonus when you buy the paperback, so even if you're not a great reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you. Use the Amazon app today and buy the Birth Trilogy, spelled B-E-A-R-T-H, or search for my name. I'm Brooks Agnew.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you for joining me. We're here with David Weiss and also with Mitchell from Australia. And Mitchell, before the break, we were talking about your children and how hard it is to raise them in today's world of indoctrination. So I don't think you were done. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, look, it's hard when it's coming at them from all angles and from school and from TV. It's kind of, I'm not trying to reverse it. I'm just trying to get them into the thinking pattern that they need to kind of discern what's real and what's fake. And I have a feeling it's working, because that recent asteroid that they landed on, you know, that picture that they sent out, kind of blurry picture of being on an asteroid, My son came home and he Googled it, and because he saw it at school, and he showed me. He said, "Do you think this is real?" And I said, "Well, what do you think? Does it look like an animation or a picture?" And he says, "Well,
wait, that wasn't real."
This is like music to my ears hearing this, though. It really is. It's like, that's all I wish I would have had. And I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't have parents that said, "Hey, look at that. Think that that's real?"
Next thing you're going to tell me South Park isn't real.
No, that is real.
It looks more real than that satellite picture.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Oh, my God.
Carmen,
sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, so we looked it up, and I said to him, like, yeah, what have you seen on it? And he showed me the actual video that they showed, and there was a blurry picture, and then there's an animation. And I said, well, do you think that animation is real or fake? And he said, yeah, well, that's an animation. That's how did they even get there? And I said, that's exactly right. Can they actually prove that they were there? Can they show to us how they got there and play a video of actually being there, moving around, looking around, and that. Like, I'm in no way going to tell my kids what to think. I'm just trying to teach them how to think. Like, I'm not going to tell them that the Earth is a globe or flat. I want them to find it out for themselves. And
Mitchell, if you keep doing what you're doing with them, they're going to grow up thinking they live in a world led by deceivers and liars. Oh, wait a minute, they do.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
It is. Sometimes it's one of those things where they had to make it so big so that you had to stand in awe of it. That's how I look at it.
You know, the geoengineering thing is a good way to kind of get smooth people into these sort of situations too, because like it's kind of in your face. You look up and you go, "What the hell is that?" That's kind of what I say to my kids at early ages. Like, just like look up, what's that plane doing? And like I kind of explain that they're spraying things and it's not good for us, and they call them bad planes now. And my son's my 8-year-old, when he's in the school ground and he sees a bad plane, he says to his friends, "There's a bad plane," and now he says that every time one goes over, they're all shouting out, "Bad plane, bad plane."
I was at the music festival I was at. There was 40,000 people, and they're crisscrossing the sky. It was just unbelievably horrible. And nobody was noticing except this one kid who was screaming, like, "What's wrong with the sky? That doesn't look right. That doesn't look right." And just one kid. But it's invisible to all the adults.
You sure it wasn't Paige?
She was screaming it too.
Okay, so it's two.
Yeah, so her and me. So three of us.
It's just those sort of things that you'd see. It just takes one kid to actually change your mind about the way people think about things. It just takes just seeing that one kid to give you a bit of faith that there is people out there that are thinking for themselves.
Oh yeah, some of those it gives me faith just to know there's so many people and so many people finding it every day. Hey, back to the experiment. I don't know if I gave the line or gave the name of Torque the Line, and you could use some help possibly. So you want to tell people about how they can join in if they want, and how they can donate to help make it a bit easier for you?
Yeah, absolutely. If there is anyone in Australia that can physically turn up and help, I'm on the New South Wales South Coast, about 2 hours south of Sydney. That's where the first experiment will be. You can email me directly at talktheline@gmail.com. That's TORQUE. And if you want to just check out what the experiment's about, type in Talk the Line Experiment, and that's the YouTube channel. And there's 3 videos there at the moment. I encourage everyone to watch all 3 because that really explains the specs of the spectra, where the experiment's going to be, how it's going to be done, the rig that I'm using, and that sort of thing, because I'm getting a lot of questions after people just watch the introduction video. And it kind of really explains in the other 2 videos what's actually going on. I have got a GoFundMe set up. Just search for Talk the Line Experiment at the GoFundMe page. It's the only one there. As you said before, the line has been funded. That's fully funded. I'm going to leave the GoFundMe up just in case anyone does want to help out and feel sorry for me that I'm going to have to pay for the rest of the stuff myself. I don't really mind. I will do that. I'm prepared to do that. If anyone wants to give me a hand, or anyone's got a canoe that they can lend me, or a GoPro, or anything along those lines, any help will be great. If you just got a suggestion or a concern, I'll answer every email and every comment. So
what are you going to do for communication between the ends and the middle? You just going to use cell phones? You have walkie-talkies?
Yeah, either cell phones, but I've been on eBay and I've looked up some walkie-talkies that are fairly cheap, and they go over, I think, 5 miles, so that would be perfect for the actual day to keep in contact with everyone on an instant basis without having cell phone reception.
You have to remember that walkie-talkies only work in a straight line, so if there's a hump in between you over the water, you're not going to be able to hear each other.
Damn it.
Well, you've just run the experiment, so there's no point in me doing it now. Thanks, Dave. Don't worry about it. You're not getting your money back.
When do you plan? Do you have an idea of when you might want to do it?
Well, I've just literally just ordered the line over the weekend. It's been, I think, the manufacturer said it's a 2-week turnaround, and then to get it here. So I'm thinking about 2 to 3 weeks I will actually have it, and I'll be starting to do the tests over shorter distances, because the lake is good for that too. Like, it's not just one distance that I can do. It's got bits and pieces sticking out everywhere that I'm going to pull it out and stretch it, and get little bits of it to see what torque it's actually going to snap at. Leave it out in the sun, put it under the water, see if the buoyancy is what it is, and do all these tests before I actually do it. So at the moment, I don't really have a set date. I can't really lock anything in at the moment, but I'm hoping to do it definitely before the end of the year.
Well, one question I had, somebody else asked me that I thought was a good question. I didn't know how you're going to handle it. Is there other boats on that lake usually, and how are you going to keep that 2.2 mile stretch clear of boats maybe going across it, or maybe some buddy on a tube going by? I don't know how that lake is set up, or if that's something that is there every day. Have you thought about that yet?
Yeah. I've been out there a fair bit, and I have noticed that there's a few canoes. I haven't seen any powered motorboats yet. But the reason why, it was originally actually going to be 2.2 miles. I think I've reduced it to about 2.1 miles, because right over next to where those bits of land stick out is kind of the narrowest bit of the lake, and that's what I've noticed is the least used bit by these people that go fishing and stuff out there. There's not really too many people out there. It's really only locals, because it's a pretty isolated town. I've only seen one person out there at a time ever, and I'm sure if I have enough people, they can and signage. There's only, I think, 2 or 3 access routes to this actual lake. Cool. So I can signage there. I could have warning signs, and people kind of stand there to warn people, because it can be dangerous if this line does snap and people aren't aware of it, to kind of running into it and that sort of thing.
Right, and then you're going to do it, I think you mentioned early in the morning is probably the best time, and it's probably not as busy then as well.
Yeah, for sure. I've been out there early in the morning, and it's crystal clear. It's calm as. There's no one out there. Fishermen do like to get up early, but I don't think any of the locals are prepared to kind of get up as early as what I'm going to get up and actually string it across and do it that early or late afternoon, because, just kind of, I think there are other places for people to fish, and I think that's a lot better, but on those sort of days, I don't think people will be around.
You're going to need about half a dozen people to do it.
Yeah, for sure. A minimum of 5. That's what I'm going for, including me. How I said, one person each end to film the actual torque of the line on the dynamometers. A person at each of those places of land that sticks out of me in the center, and then whoever else who maybe has a drone or another kayak to warn people. Just kind of walking, because you can walk the perimeter of this lake as well, kind of up and down it, but I think it's a little bit further because it kind of sticks in and out. But I really need as many people as I can, so I do urge anyone that can come give me a hand to kind of put their hand up and be part of this, please.
Well, I definitely can come help you out. Dave's going to buy that ticket, and I'll just fly on over there.
Well, it's just, you might have a bit of trouble finding Australia, because Dave doesn't believe it exists. So
the land out over.
Oh, it's the land out over?
Yeah.
I like that. Or the land over there.
I've been banned from using down under because that doesn't fit Dave's narrative.
Yeah, he doesn't think it exists. So no flat earther does, really.
I actually believe Australia exists. I don't believe that there's more than one guy in Australia. We're speaking with John LeBon right now. We're speaking with Mitchell. We're speaking with. They're all the same guy.
This is John LeBon. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. And Wolfie. Pretty sure it's Wolfie too.
I have
Same-
personalities.
yeah, exactly. Oh man, I was going to say something, but I was going to tell you, Dave, that I don't know if I ever told you the story where one guy asked to talk to me through some messaging format, and I finally talked to him, and he said that he had the the inner track on the deception that is the fake United States. That the United States was fake, and that there was. I said, I live here. I live in the United States. He's like, oh, you do? And then he just hung up and never talked to me again. But I guess that's one way to disprove we're talking to somebody in Australia. Believe it or not, he's upside down as we speak, Dave.
Although I might be the only person I am in Australia, so literally the whole of Australia is on the phone to you and listening right now.
All of it. Everyone. East Coast, West Coast. So anyway, if anybody would love to help out, that would be awesome. Obviously, I don't think I'll be able to get there unless somebody wants to foot that $2,000 plane ticket. But there are many listeners, I know that are down over. Is that what it is? No.
Out over.
Sorry.
Out over.
I was going to say down over doesn't seem much better. That are out over. So if you're one of those and you can help out, and you said you're on which coast again?
On the East Coast of New South Wales.
On the East Coast, yeah. So if you can help out, they can email you at torquetheline@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, TORQUETHELINE.
So Dave, what is the your 1 to 10 assessment of the test? What would you give it?
I think it's a great test. I think you will need either to paint the line in spots or maybe put just little ribbons on it, little thin, 2 millimeter wide fluorescent ribbons.
Well, now that I think about it, I think I might have said earlier that it was transparent line. It's like it's not transparent. It's like a white, isn't it? Do you not know which one you got, Mitchell?
Well, yeah, I was talking about it with the guy, and he did say that any dye would make it heavier and affect the buoyancy or sag. So I think, yeah, it is the transparent line.
So heavier is good. Heavier is in favor of the ball, and I think a little paint isn't going to sink it under that amount of tension. So it won't favor the flat Earth. But you're gonna need to see those things, because as you're cruising a lot around looking for the middle, oh, there it is. Oh yeah, GPS confirms it.
But it's not like I'm going to creep up to the middle and it's just going to drop down. There's going to be a gradual thing, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I do need to know exactly where the middle is to get the maximum bulge if there is any.
That's what I like so much about the weight thing, is that extra weight is good. Like Dave said, if you picture the translucent or the acrylic storage case or whatever you're using, the acrylic trough, that same thing would be true. If you pull it down and it's weight related, well, then the whole line is going to go down from end to end. Whereas what we need to be seeing is a gradual cutting to where it's only hitting the bottom of that 8-inch tank at the very middle, and then gradually works back to its torque position on the other side.
That's exactly right. And also, it's not just going to be at water level that I'm doing this test. They'll be just to determine whether it is kind of globe or flat. But I will be, the rig that I'm using is totally in the water. So this will allow me to fully submerge the line at either end up to maybe 5 or 6 inches and have it pulled tight and repeat the test just to see if that buoyancy is there in the middle. And also to pull it out of the water onto the banks to measure the sag as well. So I'll be covering all aspects of sag and buoyancy to double check these.
So again, if you were making sure I have this right, if you were to start 3 inches below the water or 4 inches below the water, then you would add that 9.5 inches to that starting point. So then you would expect to see 13 inches in the center, right?
That's exactly right. Yes, but if it is the case that it's flat, I want to show that it is buoyant and that it will rise to wherever I say it will. Kind of, they're using the calculator it will rise that 3 inches. But yeah, that's exactly right. If there is a bulge, it will be even further under the water.
Well, like I said, I would give it a solid 8. I think that it's a great starting point to kind of get this kind of test off the ground. And then, like I'm describing with an acrylic tank or some sort of controlled freshwater system where there's no chance of any leaves or sticks or twigs getting caught up in the line. There's no chance of currents. If we did that, I would put money on it. There's no way you see that dip to the middle. I'm sorry, dip to the bottom at the middle.
That's right. That's the perfect controlled situation that we probably should be working for, and just to show that everything is controlled and actually for everyone to just go and view it wherever you are.
There's a lot of land in Utah. Have you ever driven through there?
We'll get the fundraiser going then.
Mitchell, have you ever left your country? Have you ever been to other continents?
I've been to Indonesia, which is slightly above Australia, so I know there is water around Australia, if that's what you're trying to mean.
Yeah, just wondering if you had been elsewhere.
Briefly, yeah, when I was young, because my father actually lives in Indonesia. He's not Indonesian, but that's where he's retired now, so I've got someone in a different country that can kind of verify that there are other pieces of land in continents and things out there.
Is everything okay in Indonesia? I thought I heard something today.
There was a tsunami, I think, that wiped out a lot of the low-lying areas, but I don't think he was affected. There's been a lot of earthquakes at the moment. It affected a lot of tourism, and they're kind of very tourism-based, so it's kind of affecting everyone over there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought I heard that today. Well, glad he's okay. And but you've never been to the States then?
No, I've never been to the States. I am planning a trip eventually when the kids get a bit older, and I will come over, and I've seen that, there's a lot of beautiful land over there, and we're trying to just get around Australia first and seeing everything. So I've got a fair bit of knowledge about where everything is in Australia, but it'd be great to come over to the US one day and check everything out. Looks very
November
beautiful.
14th and 15th in Denver, Colorado. It's a good time, 2018. If you're interested in joining us for the 2018 Flat Earth Conference, Dave will be there.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Wouldn't miss it for the world. I will be there as well, so come out and join us if you can, and also help Mitchell if you can. I'm sure he would really appreciate it. Mitchell, any other final thoughts on this experiment? Or, again, people can go to GoFundMe and then just search for Torque the Line, TORQUE, the line. There's only one, so you'll find it. What's the total that you were at last time you checked?
981, I think it was. So
right.
$80 above the goal, which is fantastic, and I'm so happy that people want to keep donating at the moment. Big shout out to all the people who have made this possible and got not only donated but gave me the support and encouragement to actually do this, because as you said, it hasn't been done before, and I think it definitely needs to be doing, and it will be done now.
Mitchell and I talked before about the other unique feature that at least I've found in Australia is the is there a name for that particular railroad track that I talked about?
I think it's the Pacific, something like the Pacific, that goes from one side to the other, the Tasman Pacific or something like that. That is a massive road. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a remote location, but it's the straightest piece of track in the world, about 500 kilometers long, I think it was.
Yep. Yeah. I think 300 miles of completely straight 100% track, and I've played with that on Google, which shouldn't work on the curved earth, but anyway, it does work, and there is a 300-mile stretch, and I was trying to find locations where we could, by looking at the altitude, get basically to a very low spot and watch the train travel for as far as we could. But again, those kind of tests are all what we're talking about that are optical, that we're going to be looking through some sort of camera or some sort of telescope, and we're going to have all the problems that we have with being at the surface of the Earth, which is where the heaviest amount of atmosphere is, where you're going to have the hardest time seeing or differentiating. And that's why this test is so awesome, because it's the first test. I can't really think of another that I've heard of. Dave, can you? That's a mechanical test like this, for less than $2,000 or for $2,000 it can be done?
It's the only one. I love the test. I'm just concerned about the amount of help you need. You need, a half a dozen people or more. You need communications. You need the weather to cooperate. You need everybody to be available. When you were on our show with Matt and I on the Flat Earth podcast, Matt jokingly asked you, have you done any kayak training? And have you? Because you're going to need to. Dragging that line for 2 miles, that's just to set it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've grown up near the water. I've grown up with a canoe that has now sunk to the bottom of a lake that is not too far from my house. So as a kid, I've been growing up kind of on the water, paddling around everywhere. I stayed pretty fit, so there should be no problem with that.
Yeah, it's going to, to do the test, it's not like, hey, let's go to do the test. We'll be back in an hour. The setup is going to be hours.
Yeah, it's an all-day thing.
And then filming it, and you need the weather to cooperate. You need no waves. There's a lot of things that have to fall into place, so it's not going to be as easy. You'll have everybody lined up, and it'll be windy, and you can't do it.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm doing it so close to my house, because I can go out there whenever I want and kind of see the conditions. I can look up the forecasts and kind of predict for myself when it's going to be windy and when it isn't, what time of the day it should be done at, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of another. That's the biggest situation I had is the wind. The waves not so much, because the lake is actually pretty shallow. Like it's deep in the middle, but at either end there are a few waves. But being the rig being in the actual water, I can kind of get out past those small waves to where it's more calm. And actually, yeah, it's just the wind that I'm kind of worried about, which is why I'm going to be doing it under the water, so the wind won't affect the line directly, but the wind moving the water is going to be the biggest problem.
Can't wait.
Me either. So yeah, thank you very much, Mitchell, for being on the show. Again, people can get a hold of him at torquetheline@gmail.com. If you're down there, if you're out over there in Australia and you'd love to help out, give him a ring, send him an email, and let him know, and he'll get in contact with you. You said you answer every email and message on YouTube. That's a lot like me, so very cool.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you kind of doing that as well, because I think it just proves a lot about a person when they take a lot of time to answer emails and for their fans.
Anybody get that joke there? Just Dave, I guess.
I get it.
So I appreciate it so much, you being on, and yeah, I would love to see that. I know how it is that it's extra money, so I'm all for you getting the entire $2,000 that you asked for, because you said the $900 would pay for the line, and everything else would be for conveniences and a new canoe or a new maybe extra cameras. And I know how that goes. So, it's the same thing with the you're the one doing all the work, and so you're not trying to necessarily make money off this, but anything extra that anybody has that they can pitch in will make it easier for Mitchell. It's not easy. I've done it a few times myself when you go out there to do these experiments, and if you don't have all the right equipment, it just becomes a headache. So I'm all for you getting whatever you need to make it a successful test, and hopefully the beginning of future tests that do this more controlled and help bring what we believe to be the truth of where we live.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys voicing this and making it well known, because I will be. I don't think we mentioned that I will be sending this line out to whoever else wants to do it anywhere else. So it's not just a line for me; it's a line for the community. And being already funded, that's a major part of the experiment, all done and ready for whoever wants to replicate this.
Beautiful. Yeah, the line has a 50-pound test strength, and I think you said tested after hours of stress, it breaks at mid 70s pounds. So all things considered, it should be a line that doesn't break, that can be then passed along to somebody else in the community to repeat the test elsewhere, because that's what science is: repeatability. I think.
And that's Neil deGrasse Tyson's biggest kind of thing. He says an objective truth is something that can be repeated anywhere you are, wherever you are on different continents, and something that won't later be proven wrong. So that's what I'm trying to get out here to make something for us to say, well, it's flat whether you believe it or not. It's kind of turn the tides on this.
Science is something that can be tested and repeated unless it's already a proven fact, like the Earth being round.
Right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We'll talk Jay Tolman, Media One. You're listening to Jeranism Unlimited.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jeranism Raw with Jeran and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR Live. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
The Kavanaugh investigation, new trade deal. I'm Ann Cates. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh was questioned by police after a bar fight in 1985. New York Times reporter Ben protests.
Mr. Kavanaugh was hanging out with some friends at a bar, and it appears that the police were called after a man they got into an argument with had to go to the hospital because he was bleeding from the right ear. It appears that Mr. Kavanaugh didn't cause that incident itself, but he apparently at one point did throw ice on that man, and it was part of the larger kind of scrum that they were in. And there was an eyewitness that identified some of the other people who were involved in the incident, and they all seemed to be part of Mr. Kavanaugh's group of friends from Yale.
The FBI has also talked to longtime Kavanaugh friend Mark Judge, but his attorney says the interview has not been completed. The U.S. has reached a trade pact with Mexico and Canada.
The agreement covers $1.2 billion in trade and was finalized when the U.S. struck a deal with Canada just before the midnight deadline. The president called it a historic win for U.S. manufacturers and a new dawn for the U.S. auto industry and auto workers.
More auto parts and automobiles will be manufactured inside the United States. We will be manufacturing many more cars.
Other winners, the president says, are U.S. farmers and ranchers who will have greater ability to sell in Mexico and Canada. Jerry Bodlander at the White House.
President Trump has given the nation's highest military honor to Army Staff Sergeant Ronald Schur for saving lives during a firefight in Afghanistan a decade ago.
For more than 6 hours, Ron bravely faced down the enemy. Not a single American died in that brutal battle, thanks in great measure to Ron's heroic actions.
Mixed action today on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 193 points. The S&P up 11. The Nasdaq closed down 9. I'm Ann Cates.
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to, what happened there? Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. Here with David Weiss, and before the break, or before we started talking to Mitchell, I had mentioned I wanted to talk about J. Tolan Media One. You know what channel I'm talking about now, Dave?
Yeah, he's the guy with the infrared camera.
Yeah, have you seen his latest that he put out yesterday?
Yeah, 1,200 miles he thinks he's seeing. If he's wrong, it's 1,000 miles, right?
Well, I mean, if he's very, 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 very wrong, it's 400 or 600. And that I can't really see, but even that, you put into the curvature calculator 35,000 feet, the most that you should be able to see is 240 miles. And he's flying above St. Louis and was seeing what looked like past the Lake Michigan.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that clear. I mean, if he gets a clear day up in an airplane.
Yeah, and he describes it best. Have you heard my impression of him? He's like, and look at what we've got here. Oh, this is, wow, fantastic.
So amazing.
Yeah, he's just awesome to listen to. And he's telling you what he's looking at. And you're absolutely right. What he points out, too, is that there is never a point where you see things curve off in the distance that like we should be seeing. And in fact, he brings up the globe model on Google Earth, and to see what he's seeing, you have to get up into the 1,000 miles high. I mean, he's so far up when he's using Google Earth to get the same view that he's getting out of a plane at 33,000 feet.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no denying. I mean, the Mississippi River all the way up to the lakes, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's some of the best footage out there, and I think if it can be confirmed, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at it yet and compare it with maps and see if I can track the river that he's tracking. But even he says, it's hard for me to say it, but he thinks that he was looking at Lake Superior, which was 1,200 miles to the front of the lake, and if he's seeing the back, it's 1,700 miles. Pretty crazy. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, J. Tolan Media with the number 1, so it's JTOLAN Media, and then the number 1. Phone lines are open, by the way. I forgot to mention that. 213-233-3998 if you have a question for Dave or for myself or a question for the universe. We also answer all universal questions, so you can ask those here. But that line is open, 213-233-3998. Go ahead and get in line if you like. But yeah, J. Tolan Media One, he's basically got a Sony camera that he has converted to an infrared, added some features. I think that he's got well over $1,000 setup. He's taking that up in air flights across the country and showing what he can see from a window seat. And even with a scuffed up window, which is what he had in this last one, unbelievable footage from what looks like, according to his GPS, that he's above St. Louis. And like I said, he's seeing all the way past the Lake Michigan. Let's take a phone call. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
This is your meatballer caller.
We expected you.
Okay, good, because we were talking about this line test before.
Yes.
And I had, and like your co-host today, talking about what the problems would be for somebody thinking it's a sphere that you're going over, and a curve of the Earth would be that you have to make sure that the line can be pulled into the water to begin with, because I think if you're in fresh water, you're going to have a different buoyancy than if you're in salt water, and
Right.
Nobody's really calculated what the buoyancy of this line is exactly compared to that whatever fresh water that you're going into. You have to calculate this to begin with.
No, he's done all that.
And if you're not going to go,
if you listen,
but if you're not going to go through the trouble, and again, I suggested that you test it on like 100 feet or something like that to see what kind of force you have to exert to pull this down. But if you're not going to go through that trouble, then to start out with.
Hold on a second, real quick. Hold on, before you go on. He is going to do all that. He mentioned it yesterday in Globebusters. You mentioned it earlier that he's going to start small and yes, figure out if that special gravity number is correct. He said it's at 1.2. The guy I was talking to was looking at a line that had a 0.98 special gravity. But yes, he's testing that first. And also the guy that he got the line from did some tests in his house, leaving that line in the water for long periods of time. And I mean like overnight, to make sure that it didn't change. So that's all been being considered.
Okay, so now when you go out and or when he goes out and does the test, then in order for either flat Earth or globe Earth to make sure that the line will actually go down, you need to go like 2 feet down on each end of the line, and then pull it down and see if the center will go down 2 feet. And on
why
why
not 2 inches?
It should do that.
Why not 2 inches? If you could pull it 2 inches under the water on both ends and it's 2 inches under the middle, would that prove it to you? If he did it at the surface first, if he did it at the surface and it stayed across the surface, then they pulled it down 1 or 2 inches, and it was 1 or 2 inches all the way across, what would your argument be there? Perfect.
Okay, I'm talking about what do you mean perfect?
You had no answer. You have no argument.
That's what he was trying to get to. David said he wants to find a test where there is no answer.
Not that I have an argument.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I don't really care round or flat or whatever. I'm just talking about the test itself to make sure that it is. And if you ask that, okay, with the I don't know what the place you're going to do it at, or he's going to do it at. I don't know if there are waves like you were talking about before. So I'm thinking 2 feet down, you're going to make sure that this line is actually able to be pulled under the surface, whether it's round or whether it's flat. Either way.
Correct.
That will make. I mean, you go 2 inches. I'm not sure. What are the waves looking like at that thing? What kind of, I don't know the situation.
It's tidally locked, so it's not affected by the tides. It was a former part of the ocean that they've closed off because it was flooding the community. I don't know the name of the lake. I'll get it for you right now, though.
But let me ask you a question.
But
let's say
I'm not there.
Hold on. He gets a perfect day. There's no boaters. There's no wind. The lake is glass. He sets up the line right on the surface of the water, pulls it tight, and it stays across the surface of the water. Then he lowers both ends down 1 or 2 inches under the water, pulls it tight, and measures the middle, and it's 1 or 2 inches.
I've lost you. I don't know if you're hearing me, but I've lost you.
You can hear him now? Go ahead, David.
Are you hearing me?
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
I hear you now.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
I'll say it again. He pulls it across the surface of the water. It stays across the surface of the water the whole way. I can see your argument saying it's just following the curve. It's floating in the middle. But then they lower both ends down 2 inches, and he measures the middle, and it's 2 inches down. The ends are 2 inches down. Do you have any argument there?
Are you talking about you pull it tight?
Pull it tight, and it's 2 inches under the water the entire distance from end to end. Do you have any argument there?
I have no argument. That's fine.
Okay.
And
so
then
would you say that the Earth is flat?
He's asking, would you say that would be evidence that the Earth was flat? Because for me, and again,
I would say that was evidence for it. Yes.
Okay.
I would say that's evidence for it. Yes.
And I think David,
I have no problem with that. Like I said, I don't care which way the test goes. I just want to make sure that it's done properly so that both sides can be satisfied. That's all.
Yeah, that's all.
I don't care. But if you do a poor test, then
absolutely. And
if nobody does this thing of pulling it down to start out with, and like I say, I go 2 feet just to make sure 100% that line can be pulled down.
But
just 100%, so nobody has any. And then refloat it. No, then refloat it. And once you have guaranteed that the line can be pulled down 2 feet, then refloat it and do whatever you want to do. Because now you've verified that the line can actually be pulled down.
I agree.
2 feet and not 2 inches?
Just so we cancel out anybody's.
Dave, what he's saying is that if you did it, and I don't think 2 feet is necessarily realistic, maybe a foot or maybe 6 inches. But what he's saying is to just prove it, do it so that the whole line is pulled under, and now you've proven this whole line is under. If you pull it only 2 inches, sure, could you prove that the whole line is under? There might be a part of the line that's 1.25 miles out that has surfaced or something. So I see what he's saying. By pulling it completely under, you can say 2 feet, a foot to where the entire line has now been submerged, and you can prove that with a drone or whatever. Then he's saying refloat it, and now you can do whatever you want. You've proven that it can go under.
Right. And actually at the 2 feet line on both ends, then I would probably, if it was me, I would have a line like your guest said there, something tied there where you could actually measure it out. And if it was me, again, since this is neutrally buoyant line, then I would have little pieces of line attached at the center, different lengths perhaps, marked so that
that's Dave says the same.
Yeah, Dave, nothing like a ribbon, or if you can get a ribbon that's more neutrally buoyant, okay, but otherwise just another piece of the line that would be strung off to the side that's maybe cut at 1 foot and then put a 2 foot piece on and a, or a 1 inch piece or 2 inch piece, 3 inch piece, and then you could see how many pieces are still above the surface or below the surface. And you wouldn't have to touch the line or anything. You could see how far down the center of the line is going.
No, I totally agree with that. And I agree with adding weight. I think that I would err on the side of the globe. I'm going to have no problem with that, because I think if you did the test and it was demonstrable that there was a gradual undering of the, or submerging of the line, and at the center it's down a certain distance, and at the ends it's back up to wherever you started, be that 2 inches or at the water surface, I'm going to want to do the test again. But that's the kind of evidence that I'm looking for that would say, okay, the Earth is curved like they've told me. I don't see it happening, and that's why I think the test is great.
Yeah, and previously, like I was talking to you, I have a doubts that because anytime you put intention to the sides to raise something or pull something down, like your guest was saying, it's just going to be the opposite force. The buoyancy is an opposite force from the gravity force, one way or another. If you were above, and actually, when I first heard you talk about this test, I thought you were talking about, Jeran, is putting the line in the air. That's what I thought the very first, and I thought that wouldn't work because you actually have to pull really hard to get that thing out of there. But it's going to be the same thing floating on the water to get the curve going out the opposite direction.
Right.
If it's a curve, okay. If it's a curve, so I think testing it first, because I think there's going to have to be a really hard force to get that line in the center to go down at all. That's in my thought process.
You don't think somebody could? You don't think somebody could take their? You don't think somebody could just take their finger and push it under? Is what you're saying?
From the end?
No, from the middle.
No, go from the middle. No, I think you can push it down there, but that's a lot different than pulling it from the ends over that long line. I mean, it's like you could just do it on your desk in front of you, like take a 3 or a 2 foot length of string and put a 8-ounce weight in the middle of it, and then try to pull on the ends of those strings and try to get that weight to be level. I mean, you have to put a lot of force on there to move that thing up. You can get it off a little bit.
You mean if you're above the water? You're talking
above the water on your desk.
Right.
I'm talking about on your desk. Just do a little test of putting a 6-ounce weight on a string and see, just to get it in your mind where, you know what, you're right. You have to really put a lot of tension. So I think unless you really have unless you get the water and the line just like almost exactly the same buoyancy, then you're going to have a problem. That's all.
Nope, I totally agree.
Okay, that's all I had to say on that. But Jeran, you told me you were going to give me a thing on the EME and the moon bounce deal, and I've been waiting for 3 weeks.
Did you hear Globebusters or no? I did talk to Bob about it. Did you hear that episode?
No, I was waiting on here. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and
when did you talk about that?
Well, it would have been the Sunday after the Monday that we talked. So we talked on Monday, and then I brought it up on Globebusters on the following Sunday. So we talked about the EME or the DXing, and we talked about moon bounce. I kind of generally agreed with Bob for the most part. I mean, what we want to do is we want to see it, because Bob says, yes, he has heard of people, hams, that claim to be able to do that, but he's never actually seen it done. He doesn't know what their method is. How are they calculating the time between signal and return? So if you know any of that information or know anybody who could possibly perform that experiment, let us know. What?
I was saying you can go onto YouTube and find any of them and give them a call, I would think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that they're public.
So Bob's interested in finding somebody to do that. And then DXing.
And so that's on Globebusters. But again, I was talking to you on this show, so I thought you would come back on this show and do it.
Yeah,
rather than I don't know where else to go look for you to, when you're talking. I don't follow you around to find
totally
out
understand.
Where's Jeran today.
Yeah, one of the hardest things for me
is that
I do 3 different shows plus my own channel. So I say a lot of some things multiple times, and then I get people complaining, hey, you're saying that multiple times. And then when I don't say it, or then they say they didn't know about it, because I say, oh, I thought everybody, it just, me, I have this feeling that everybody listens to everything I say. Obviously, that isn't true, so it's hard for me to remember where. But you're right. It was here, and I was going to bring that up this week. But you can hear about it on Globebusters, or else we can wait till next week. I can talk more about it. But basically, Bob just said exactly what I just said, which was he's heard of it, but he's
never... You need to see it for yourself.
Well, he's never seen it or heard or talked to somebody who said exactly their method. He's heard people say, yeah, I can do a moon bounce. And then also with the DXing and the distance, we talked a lot about that, and whether or not we thought that it was bouncing off the ionosphere and heading off far distances, or whether it was going around the Earth via that. And Bob explains why he didn't agree with what they say about DXing. And I kind of defer to him in that category, considering he is a satellite technician.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, I'm still waiting to see the videos that you had from the bay when you shot the things there, to see what was happening there.
Yep, I got all that coming. I don't know if you saw about the FOIA had to upload 42 gigabytes worth of footage. That was not paid for by me. That was paid for by GoFundMe. So that definitely took precedence to me making a video about something I did on my own time.
Gotcha. And okay, there's a lot of other things to talk to you about, but I don't want to take up all your time.
Okay, well, call next week, but check out that show if you can. And it was about probably 2/3 of the way through that I asked Bob if he had been listening to Raw, and then asked him the questions that you had asked.
Okie dokie.
Appreciate it. Let's go to the next caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, what's up, Jeran and David? This is Josh Morgan.
What's up, Josh Morgan?
Hey.
Dave might be asleep.
No, I'm here. I'm still. Don't pull that on me, Jared.
Oh, sorry. You have
David, are you asleep on your incline bed?
I am not, but I'm looking forward to it.
As am I.
I think the last time we talked, I was just getting into the incline bed, and I love it. It's great. The other thing I was going to throw at you guys was, have you guys, I heard this tossed out just recently, but the idea that if you were at the equator and you're watching the stars and you're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour plus, would the stars be going faster past you than if you were like in the northern hemisphere and they're going a little bit slower, or further up Alaska, Canada, and just that idea? Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I did see somebody trying to show on Nathan Oakley's show the other day. They showed a view from the equator of the stars, and they showed the middle stars went above their head. The ones to the left seemed to be going off to circle the North Star. The ones in the south seemed to be going off and circling that area they say it circles in the south. And this person was trying to use that as evidence, saying this is impossible on a flat Earth. The stars. But what people fail to realize over and over again is that the stars are always perspective, and they're exactly relative to where you are. So a camera, just because a camera can show you the horizon on your left and the horizon on your right and straight ahead, and the camera is taking kind of a panoramic shot, you have to remember which way the camera was looking. The camera was looking straight ahead when it was taking the stars going above your head. Then the camera is turned a little bit when you're doing a panorama towards the north. So, of course, if you turn towards the north, those stars are still rising in the east. They're going up and over the North Star, which is causing them to appear to be counterclockwise. And then the camera turns to the south and is now looking south, and the stars are going from the east over the south portion to the west, and they're going in the clockwise formation. So people still miss that one, that it's simply relative. They've taken the observations and said, oh, well, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the stars go one way. If you're in the southern hemisphere, they go another way, which isn't necessarily true. It all has to do with which direction you're looking. I'm in the north, and if I go outside and I look north, then my stars are going to go counterclockwise. If I look south, then the stars are going to go clockwise. It's simply a matter of where you're at and where you're looking. Somebody in the south is simply looking south or looking north. So, but you're talking more, if I'm understanding what you're saying that the stars should move faster than the ones if you're in the northern hemisphere, which again, I think it's a relative positioning thing. So technically they would, right? I mean, if you're talking about the spokes of a wheel, which is kind of the way you would describe it, right? If you're at the North Pole looking straight up at the North Star, the stars close to it would still be circling that North Star once a day, whereas the stars at your horizon would also be circling you once a day. Obviously, if you're talking about speed, that's where you get into this is the same argument that we had with Curious Jay about the eclipse, on and on and on about, is speed what it is at the surface speed or at the rim speed, because those two things are very different. It's the same thing as the sun. The sun goes around once every 24 hours, but it has to move faster or slower to make that circuit. Dave, is your thought on that simply that in our personal atmospheric domes that we're seeing it rendered for us? So really it is moving faster on the outer edge, but people in their own domes are seeing separate?
You're seeing it relative to your own position.
Right.
So do you think that the stars above your head, like above the equator, are higher than the ones in the north and the south?
I do.
So do I.
That's why I think it's like a bundt cake. And I'm not saying that that's the way a dome is or anything. I'm just saying that's the way the atmosphere works, and they'll even admit that if you ask them. The stratosphere is at a certain height. It's at its highest at the equator and its lowest at the poles. So if you picture kind of an azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map, just as an example, and picture kind of a bundt cake pan, so it's almost like a tunnel. And what's really interesting, there's just a lot of interesting things about that seem to match our observations. One of those things being kind of what we're talking about now, that the stars are going to depend on where you're looking. If you're at the equator, yes, the stars will go above your head. But the second you turn to your left, and now you're looking north, the stars to your left are going to appear to go up and around that northern star. Turn to your right, the opposite, which is going to be clockwise. So counterclockwise and clockwise are relational or relative.
The stars always rise in the east, set in the west, no matter where you are.
Right. So that's all you need to understand. And then depending on how you're looking at those, if you're looking north, then east is to your right and things are rising up and over your head. And so that is counterclockwise. The second you turn around and now things are rising on your left and going up and over, now that's clockwise. And that's really all it is. But they taught everybody that they live on a ball, and everybody presupposes that. And so when you hear things like Southern Hemisphere and Southern Pole Star, then it gets very hard to comprehend what you're actually seeing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like it.
As far as the speed,
last thing we're going to say,
the stars.
go ahead.
Just as far as the speed, yes. I mean, a star that's just circling the North Star throughout the night technically would be moving slower than a star that needs to get all the way around your horizon or a larger path throughout the night. But I don't think that they would move faster on a ball than on a flat plane, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it was just an interesting thought. Someone tossed out there. I was just curious what you guys thought.
In reality, in the north here, the stars that are near the pole star are moving slower, and the ones farther away are moving faster, but you don't notice it. It's like watching a clock. You don't see the hand moving. The end of the hand, the minute hand, isn't moving. It's moving faster than the center, but you don't notice it.
Right. So,
yeah, and then the last thing I was going to say was I love the flat smacking. One little thing I can throw out there is I've been slipping cards into gift cards. Throw them into a little gift card, like their envelope or whatever, and eventually someone, when they get their little birthday card, it'll have a little Google Flag Clues or the Earth's not moving.
If you're giving anybody a book or anything, just stick it in the book. Give them a bookmark. Anything. It just put it in every package. We were at this festival, and we were going by a place was selling poncho sweatshirts, and I put one in every pocket on the rack, like 30 of them.
That's awesome.
I can tell you, hopefully, we had the most fun when we were at the National History Museum in North Carolina, and Dave was just dropping.
I deny this.
It was somebody that looked like Dave, I think, but maybe somebody else. But inside cases that looked like they hadn't been opened in 20 years, inside protective glass displays. It looked like
we were popping them in the cracks and throwing them in, and they were landing perfectly.
It was like a little game. I mean, could you get one to land up? The Earth is not spinning at a natural history museum, nonetheless. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Call when we come back.
All right, love you guys.
Love you too. We got one half hour left. Don't go anywhere. Listen to Jeranism.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
About 6 months ago, my wife bought Extendivite. She didn't tell me she was giving it to me. So after about 3 days, I said, maybe the weather's changed or something. I said, my legs feel really good. And she goes, well, I've been giving you this stuff, and it was the Extendivite. And you know that I'm about 75% better. I can actually climb stairs now, and I can get up out of chairs. I can even get down and, I have to work under a table or a computer table and work on a computer. I can actually get back up off the floor. You know what? It's an amazing product. I can't believe, I didn't think anything short of having surgery was going to help.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply, and of course the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
True initiation is an inward journey. It's a spiritual path that is totally inward. It has nothing to do with anything external to you.
I want to determine if the Grand Architect is indeed what I believe it to be, which is the artificial intelligence.
The initiatory path is one of self-discovery and self-revealing. It's not a journey that someone can hold your hand through.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you through the steps of initiation. Remember, you are divinity.
Step Beyond the Veil with Chris and Sherry Geo. Fridays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We'll get back to the phones. Let's get to them 1 second. Here we go. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hello?
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 Yeah, can you hear me? Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I can hear you. Sorry. I was just watching the news just recently, and they were saying how recent, like a day or two ago, whatever, it was 60th
Why were
anniversary
you doing
of
that?
NASA.
What were you doing? Go ahead.
I mean, I was flipping through the channels and news come up and it started talking about it, and it's like, I'll listen to this. It's like, oh my goodness. But anyway, because it's right here. I live in Cleveland, but it's right here. To get the big NASA thing up by the airport. But I'm just thinking of this International Space Station deal. It just won't let me go here. Is there anything that we can do? And I hate to say this out loud, but it's like, can we go after these guys for fraud?
Have
Seriously.
you ever listened to Jeran's channel? Ever?
Come on.
What's your Jeran? Tell him your mission statement.
Well, my mission statement is to end NASA's tyrannical nonsense. But I understand what you're saying because
I'm serious. What could we do?
Well, here's the problem.
Can we go? Can we?
You have to show damages when you do any kind of a legal proceeding, right? And NASA,
they're lying. It's a fraud. We can prove it.
They don't own any of that. Number one, they don't own any of the footage, which is very obvious. I mean, they don't have copyright on anything, and that's because any of their spacewalks, any of the footage, because they don't own it. This way, they don't. So I'm not sure where you go. If you go to court, you have to prove losses, right? I mean, you can't just sue somebody.
We can prove that they're the ones producing it. It's obvious.
Right. Okay, but how do we prove
Isn't
losses?
that enough?
Like, what are your losses? Can you put a number on that?
$54 billion?
No, you're telling me. That's the problem. Is I think that that's the only problem I see, and I've had one.
I want my money back. I want a part of that. I'd give them that.
Well, see, the problem with that is if you really figured out how much money it was that they took from each people, it's not enough for anybody to hire a lawyer. I mean, it's not even. It's a minuscule amount. You're talking probably.
Oh, somebody would love to go after if they.
Well, that's the thing. You
actually.
But here's the
pull
problem.
This off.
So here's the problem, though, is if NASA's only taken, say, I don't know, in your lifetime, maybe they've taken $300 from you, $400 from you. Now, when you multiply that out by 350 million people, that's where you'll start to get to a huge amount. But the problem is, how do you get a class action lawsuit with that many people? And then how do you pay the lawyer?
Boy, you flash $350 million at them or something,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Dave, you have any suggestion on this one? Is it something that we can pursue legally?
If you have to show the losses,
I mean, can we or can we not prove what we think?
Well, here's why I say we can't. Because, why I say you can't prove NASA is lying is because they are the only ones in control of the information that they put out. And that is in a very unique position.
So it's obvious that they're the only ones producing it, so they own it. They're the only ones to go to then for the suit.
So here's an example. So my FOIA case, which cost me $1,400 and took 8 months, I finally got this spacewalk. It doesn't prove anything. The spacewalk that I got is from 2006. It's discouraged me from ever wanting to do it again just because of the headaches that were involved. But after all that said, it really does prove nothing. So at this point, if what they provided me doesn't prove what I was trying to look out to get, if I were to go to the media or whoever and say, hey, here's what they sent me. This is their idea of proof. But as we can see, there's no astronauts, blah, blah, blah. They're just going to go to NASA and say, hey, this guy's saying this isn't legit footage. And NASA's going to say it's legit. And we're at an impasse. I can't go to space.
Oh, okay.
I can't go to space and prove it's not real. And they are in charge of space. And the whole scientific community loves NASA. They worship NASA. So it's not like you're ever going to get somebody on your side that says, yeah, there's some fishy things about that film. I think we should look into it, because people just take it for granted that NASA's doing something. But I scream every day and say, look at, they're getting $52 million a day.
I'm saying this space station thing is just, I mean, that they're telling you what they said happened, and it's just completely impossible for it to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't even work.
Am I not correct?
You mean when you get into the facts?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're totally right.
If you're in a vacuum and you get a hole in a non-vacuum, the thing's going to just explode.
Correct.
Oh, you just put your finger on it until you get the epoxy. You're all set.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just utterly ridiculous.
Think of the solar radiation that would come through the windows of the ISS.
That's why they have the
Right.
shades
It's like, come
down,
on.
Jeran. They have the
People would
shades
So
down.
why can't we do something? I mean, it's so obvious.
I think it's so obvious too. Well, I've still got 2 months left to end NASA's run. That was my prediction last year. I was going to try and do that in the year. Had to come up this year. But I totally agree with you. I just wish that there was a lawyer, and I told the story before. Somebody contacted me, and I actually have his email address somewhere, to ask me if I wanted to go through the process of a case. And I'm trying to think of the name. It's not quid pro quo. It's quid pro tam. Let me look up exactly. Well, he said it's a case that a lot of people do when you recognize government deception. And what it is you do this case and you have to keep it completely private. This is why the person told me if I wanted to do it. I said, no, I don't want to do that. Because basically he was saying I could take NASA to court by saying to the government, hey, NASA's been lying about this footage. And then what happens is basically you get paid out from the government, but you can never mention it. Let me bring this up. So it's called qui tam. An individual bringing suit pro se.
It's like a one-shot deal then.
Yeah, it says that is without the representation of a lawyer may bring quid tam under False Claims Act. Quid tam actions are filed under seal, which has to be partially lifted by the court to allow this type of disclosure. Basically,
I mean, I'm sure there's lots of volunteers for people to get in line and, hey, I want my turn on this money, right?
Right, but part of it is they'll pay you out.
Well, why not? Right?
Shut up. Well, because I don't want to be somebody who gets paid out.
I mean, there's millions of people.
Yeah, we would all need to do it. Yeah, I mean,
why not?
Says here it's from the Latin phrase quid tam pro domino regiquam something sequitur, meaning he who sues in this matter for the king as well as for himself. So what you're doing is you're actually bringing case on behalf of the government and for yourself. You're telling the government, hey, this company or this part of your government is screwing you, and then they pay you as a thank you for telling them the part of the government is fake. So basically I would go to court and say NASA's faking this. The government would say, okay, NASA doesn't even get to hear that I'm suing them. The government reviews the case, looks at it and says, oh, we do agree NASA is screwing us, and they pay me off and I'm never allowed to mention it again. That's what this lawsuit basically for that lawyer was. And I turned it down.
I'm just saying, I'm so sick and tired of reacting to the propaganda. I'm sick and tired of listening to the lies. It's like, come on, let's get on the offensive. What can we do? That's all I'm saying.
If you haven't seen this footage that I was talking about from Jay Tolan Media #1, this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, is this time where we start pushing this to the news? I found websites before that 500 email addresses for major news companies. And is this the kind of, are we at a place now where we package that and email off to these 1,000 media heads trying to get this stuff pushed? I've waited till we have the right.
That's what I've been asking people. Why can't we become a news outlet?
Well,
of some sort, money. Bond together.
Yeah, we all
right.
It just becomes down to like personalities, and we're in the truth business where people don't trust.
Well, we start making some noise and getting a little push, and people notice and get involved. You never know.
I totally agree, and that's why Dave does these billboards and all the flat smacking, because it needs to get into the hands of the right people with the right money. I think one of the biggest scams out there, put out there by the powers that be, is this whole idea that the truth should be free. So what they do is they convince the world of a lie with textbooks, free education. Right. They make it so simple for you to believe everything they want you to believe, and then they make it impossible for somebody to actually get out and tell the truth. Because when you tell the truth, that isn't free. You're taking time away from your family.
That's anti-patriotic.
Right. And then they just say, "Oh no, if that person's asking
for the truth sets you free." This is a police state.
And if the truth is free, I mean, the truth is never free. I mean, if you need a special testimony at a case, or
it should always be allowed to be questioned.
And it's not.
And it should be able to withstand questioning if it's true.
Absolutely. You sound like me. I mean, that the truth does not need help. It doesn't need lies. It does not need.
Right. It's all by itself. It's strong.
It stands alone. And it would stand alone regardless of the attacks on it. There's so many of these people out there that are out there trying to protect.
They don't understand.
They don't get it. They don't get that. Why don't
let
you
it out? Take it. Come on. We got you. We have the truth. What are people afraid of anything?
Yeah, they're afraid of not knowing. It's another thing they taught us is that's the scariest thing is not knowing. So people would rather know a lie than to have to be searching for the truth. Dave, describe your idea of how easy it is to believe a truth versus a lie. Or sorry, how easy it is to believe a lie versus the truth.
Lie. They teach us not to think, not to take the time, and just to believe if somebody in authority tells you something. And believing a lie is easy. Just believe it. You're done. Go watch television, drink beer, do whatever you want. But if you want to know the truth, it takes time and effort.
Yep.
Well, soldiers are honored. Police are honored. They obey. They do the right thing. They're patriotic.
And they're taught very organizational structure where you always answer the person above.
Right.
Nobody
just like in school.
Right. Nobody underneath you is allowed to disrespect you. You're a hall monitor. You get to tell people when they get to go down the hall and when they don't. Yeah, the whole world is set up exactly for their benefit.
Right.
The other thing is, too, in school.
The system.
The system promotes people that are complacent, the people that will do any assignment, that will not question what they're told. Those are the people who get degrees, and they move on through the system, and they are just complacent in anything that they want them to do. They're very compliant. They go by the book. They don't buck the trend.
People don't understand how this world could be such a wonderful place.
So easily
clean and healthy, and but. Man, I hate to talk about stuff like that.
Makes me sad because there's so much wealth out there, and so much. I mean, all these robots,
right?
And all they should be eliminating the need for people to work longer than a 2-hour day, but they don't. They just continue to pump this out, and then they charge more.
We
money.
Could accomplish so much as a people.
Oh, think how far
make it good for everyone, everywhere. I mean, just amazing things we could do.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, take care of the person to your right or left, and the world would be perfect. Everybody would be cared for. Everybody would have clothes and water and food. And but no, instead you've got a bunch of tyrants and elite at the top that just take more and more for them. I don't know how they don't realize that when you take the bigger sum of money and you've got, what do they say, that the 1% has over 99% of the wealth. It's crazy.
Pitiful.
So, any other questions?
I don't want to hold up it. No, thanks a lot, guys. Love the show.
I agree with you. And Dave, we got to do something. I don't know what it is. Maybe I will disclose it in Denver, but we need to come up with something to end this tirade. Let's go. You have another call. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hi, this is your meatballer caller. I know, unfortunately, you've been missing me a lot, but I wanted to clear something up when Dave was asking me a question about the 2 inches underneath the water.
Okay.
Are you there? Okay. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Does he hear me?
Yeah.
I want to sleep.
Okay. So you would ask me about the two inches all along the water. What I thought about that now. So I had time to think about it, and I was thinking even on a flat Earth, if you pull it down 2 inches on each side and then pull the line taut, do you agree with me that the last place to sink would be in the middle of the line? Between the 2 points?
Yeah, it would take the longest.
Possibly.
Right, it wouldn't go down as far as the end. It wouldn't go.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Wait, hold on. What is that? Sorry, start again.
Okay, because of the buoyancy of the line, if you put each end of the line down 2 inches and then start pulling it tight, the last part to sink would be the middle of the line right between the 2 points.
But with the minor amount of buoyancy that there is and the amount of tension, that line might go almost perfectly straight. It might only be an inch variance, if that. It could go perfectly straight. We don't know. So my answer, my question to you was, if it's 2 inches at both ends and 2 inches in the middle, would you believe that line is straight?
Okay, and so now that I had more time to think about it, in my thinking processes, the center part is always going to be a little bit higher than the endpoints, just because I don't believe it's possible. That's not what I'm saying.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if we measure it and it's 2 inches all the way across, would you believe that line is straight?
And it's 2 inches all the way across. I'm going to say again. I'm going to go with what the buoyancy would cause the middle to be higher than the end.
But a tiny bit of buoyancy and that amount of tension might negate the buoyancy altogether. We don't know. So if the result was forget the buoyancy. If the result was 2 inches all the way across, would you believe that line is straight, or would you think that it's curving with the Earth?
Well, I can't say I can forget the buoyancy. I mean, that would be like me asking anybody to forget part of the equation. I can't do it.
I'm telling you the result. If the result was 2 inches all the way across, would you say that line is straight?
If you want to get rid of buoyancy and if you want to get rid of gravity, yes.
No, I'm not getting rid of anything. I'm telling you that it's 2 inches. I'm telling you that it's 2 inches all the way across. There's gravity, there's buoyancy, there's density, there's everything. But the line is 2 inches under the water all the way across. Would you say that line is straight, or would you say that the Earth is curving with it?
He's saying that's the results. The results are 2 inches all the way across.
I'm saying if the Earth is flat, if the water is flat, and if you put 2 inches down and you pull it tight, and it's.
But what he's saying.
I'm saying in this case.
Okay, and he's saying we do the test. We go out and do the test, and we measure it, and it's 2 inches at the side and all the way across. It's 2 inches. That's what he's saying. That's the results. So would you say that at that point that is a straight line?
And I don't believe in the real world that can happen. Okay, the middle is always going to be somewhat higher than the two ends. Just like I told you about on the.
How do you know that?
Wait, what
I'm
about?
telling you what the result is.
Hold on a second. I'm just confused what he means. He's saying in the real world that the middle would always be higher, but we just said if you're 2 inches under and 2 inches under on each side, you pull it taut on a globe.
Okay, even if you did this, even if you did this in a bathtub, okay, and you put the ends down and you pull the ends, just like I was talking about putting the weight in the middle and trying to pull it up, you're never going to get it perfectly straight because there's always going to be some bend to it. You can't. I mean, it's just you would have. There would have to be an infinite amount of pull in order to get it straight, and there is no infinite.
Wait a minute. Why? The
line
you know how much the line weighs? The whole thing is only a couple of ounces all the way across.
Yeah, it only weighs less than a pound. So if the line.
You're talking about the line.
But the line is neutrally.
You're talking about the line weighs that much.
Yeah, the line is neutrally buoyant.
You're talking about the line weighs that much.
The line held in the air only weighs less than a pound, and then you put it in the water. Now it weighs almost nothing.
And that's a 5,000 meter spool. The 5,000 meter spool, which is not.
Okay, but that
is more.
The weight in the air is irrelevant to the buoyancy. For example,
because the buoyancy is
you blow up a balloon.
Hold on, the buoyancy is 0.98 or 1.03, meaning it is neutrally buoyant, meaning that line is supported throughout the entirety of the water. Right? The line is going to be supported.
And I'm not here with a calculator I'm not out here, I don't have a calculator here and I don't have the time to think about what those numbers mean in the real world right now. Okay.
Yeah, well,
but I'm just saying, if you're talking about a line that weighs a certain amount, if you put it on a scale and it weighs a certain amount, that's different than buoyancy. So just like a balloon can weigh very little, but you try to put that balloon underwater and it's too buoyant, you wouldn't be able to push it underwater at all. So you got two different numbers here.
This stuff has.
It wouldn't matter how much the line weighs on a scale.
Well, no, it is.
Anyway, all I wanted to say was I just wanted to clear it up. That 2-inch thing even if I thought it was a flat Earth and flat water, in my thinking and the way I'm thinking with the buoyancy, the middle would always curve up a little bit. Even on a flat Earth, flat water, the middle would curve up a little bit because you couldn't pull it tight enough. The more you would pull, the more the middle would come down, but you would never get that perfect 2 inches all the way along the whole line.
No, but it'd be
the same way you wouldn't be able to get it above the line. And again, when I first started out with this, I was trying to save. I was thinking doing through air, and I was saying it wouldn't work because you would get that curve the other way, and that would show, and that curve the opposite way would actually show a ball then. And I'm saying don't do it because you'd be showing the opposite thing than what you want to show. I'm not trying to go one way or the other on here. I'm just saying underwater pulling it would be the opposite of the gravity pulling down. Now the buoyancy is pulling up, so you would get the opposite curve than you would above in the air.
Because here's why you're wrong.
Even if it's a minor amount.
Hold on a second. It's not a minor amount when you're talking about the difference between something being neutrally buoyant in the water versus something not neutrally buoyant in the air. So you're talking about stretching the line in the air. Of course, there'd be a huge sag because nothing's supporting it. Once you put it in the water, the entirety of the line is supported. That's the point of it. It's special gravity being 1.02.
I'm claiming that the minor amount of buoyancy that it has is going to be overwhelmed with the amount of tension, and I'm predicting that the amount of upward arc is going to be unmeasurable.
Unmeasurable, because the whole line is.
And I'm okay. If that is the case, then fine. But unmeasurable, but it's still going to be microscopically amount above it, because no matter what you do, the ends are going to be.
So what if they're
the first to go down, and the middle is going to be the last to go down?
Right. So what if it's 2 inches?
But what I'm saying, I don't have the numbers. You have to know the salinity or the salinity of the water, or how much buoyancy the water supports. Because if you do it in the Salton Sea, or if you do it in the Salt Lake.
Yeah,
it's going to be a heck of a lot different. Or you do it in the Red Sea. You can lay on that water and you float. But so it's going to be different. Anyway.
Yeah, special gravity of salt water.
I didn't want to get into this. I just wanted to clear up that if I said it was 2 inches straight across, I mistakenly said that. Even on a flat Earth, 2 inches across, I don't think that will happen. It'll be up a little bit in the middle. That's all.
Right. Thanks. Appreciate the call. I'm still not sure he completely understands the experiment, but maybe I'm wrong. The special gravity of salt water is 1.03 compared to fresh water is 1. So then you have the special gravity of the line, that's its buoyancy. So you want to equal it with whatever you're using, or there's a formula, and this is why we've deferred to the guy that's in charge of kite fishing that knows all this stuff, because he knows that they want the line to float on the water. Dave, do you use any kind of line like this in your paragliding sailing world?
Kite surfing. It's a thicker line, and it is neutrally buoyant. It actually might float a little bit, but with just a little bit of tension, I can pull the whole thing underwater at 27 yards.
Right. So anyway, check out the Globebusters episode, and then also watch the videos, because I know Mitchell, if you just search Torque the Line on YouTube, and then watch, Mitchell's only got 3 videos on that channel. But he'll be able to, in those videos, explain it to you. And then also he gives links to all of the calculators and online, formulas. So all the numbers that you're saying you don't have right now to the meatball or collar, you can go and get those by starting off at YouTube at Torque the Line. Final words, Dave. We ran into the 9 o'clock pretty quick, midnight for you. I did want to mention to everyone that I'm pretty positive that starting next week, the show will be going to 2 hours. Oh, no, Jeran, don't do it. But the show will probably be going to 9 to 11 Pacific time and 9 to 11 Pacific time, which
Eastern.
is... Sorry. 6 to 8 Pacific time and 9 to 11 Eastern. Getting confused there. But it will just be an hour off the end of it. Because I heard that's what Jews like to do. So. So yeah, Dave might be joining me weekly here. So if you've got questions or comments for him, please come on by, give us a call, let us know. Dave, any final words, or where people can catch some of your latest and greatest? And when's the next podcast upload? I'm hurting.
We're working on it. It's, we just have to coordinate our schedules. We just put one out last week, so sit tight. TheFlatEarthPodcast.com. Everything's there. Great place to send people for videos where YouTube can't derail you with a Neil deGrasse Tyson suggested next video.
Another great site is Stop Look Think.
That's for Flat Earth and all of the other deceptions. But if you're talking to somebody about Flat Earth and they don't know about all of the other lies of the world, it's kind of overwhelming. But if they're aware of, like, hey, where's all the stuff on, these hoax shootings and stuff, Stop, Look, Think is the place to go.
Exactly. So yeah, head out over there, or you can just go to Jeranism and find everything, jeranism.com, or the YouTube channel. Or you can go to DITRH, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Some of the best short videos on the internet, really.
That's my YouTube channel.
Yes.
Also, if you are in a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it is, and they are not a flat earther, take them on a vacation in November to Denver. Don't even tell them where you're going. Just say, hey, we're going to Denver, short little vacation, and take them to the conference.
I'll be there. Dave will be there. And many of the others. Check out fe2018.com. Thanks much.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for